Welcome to the International IMPROVATE Business Conference, a platform for making long-lasting connections, allowing change makers in technology and decision makers in government to make progress through innovation. IMPROVATE is dedicated to finding solutions and sparking collaborations that improve the quality of life for people around the world. Today, the new world of agriculture. We zoom in on southeastern Europe to hear the challenges they're facing in the future of agriculture and how Israeli innovators can help make the changes they need happen. So who are we going to hear from? Well, here with us in the studio is IMPROVATE's founder and chair, Irina Nevzlin. Co-chairing this conference is former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev. Joining us from Jerusalem, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Mladinov. Also taking part, ministers from Israel and southeastern Europe. Israeli Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Alon Shuster. Bulgarian Minister of Agriculture, Food and Forestry, Desislava Teneva, Executive Director of Bulgaria's State Fund Agriculture, Vasil Grudev, Bulgaria's Economy Minister, Romanian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Adrian Oros, Theodoros Karoglu, Special Minister for Macedonia and Thrace, Tugomir Majda, Croatia's State Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, and Foteni Arampatsi, Greek Deputy Minister of Rural Development and Food. And right here in the studio, we'll also be joined by Greek Ambassador Panayotis Saris, head of the Economic Diplomacy Department of the Greek Embassy, Nicolas Christodoulides, and Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, First Secretary for Economic and Commercial Affairs at the Greek Embassy, plus Dr. Yaroslav Shviet-Karpovich. He's the Scientific and Economic Counselor at the Polish Embassy in Tel Aviv. And of course, we'll be hearing from 7 of Israel's leading agri-tech companies: AgriGo, AgriGreen, GrowFit, Roots, Adama, AgroScout, and Groundwork BioAg, each one breaking down their solutions for a smart future in agriculture. And this is all very practical. So watching along with us, representatives of investment funds from around the world looking to invest in Israeli companies right now. Let's start off right here in the studio. Israel's Minister of Agriculture, Alon Shuster, it's great to have you with us. And Irina Nevzlin, of course, founder and chair of IMPROVATE. Irina is an entrepreneur who grew up and started her career in Moscow. She continued on to London and now resides in Israel. Her book is The Impact of Identity, The Power of Knowing Who You Are. And over the last decade, as chair of the board of directors of the Museum of the Jewish People, she led its $100 million transformation. It is now the biggest Jewish museum in the world, telling the story of unity and success. And of course, let's set the stage and start with you, Irina. Tell us a little bit about what you think IMPROVATE can do here, and especially in this time of global crisis.
Thank you very much. First, let me tell you that I'm so excited to be here. We have a lot of people from around the world. I've calculated 7 countries, and I wish we could be here physically because I think that's what human beings are craving. But we do, as you rightly said, we do solutions. So what we can do now is we can do it online. I will start by saying thank you to my partner, our CEO, Ranit Hossein-Hochman, because I can sit here all night long, all day long, but it wouldn't happen without her making it happen. And I will address briefly the 2 issues. We have a long program today, and I want to make sure that we don't spend too much time because everybody is busy in the crazy time like that. But I want to address 2 points, as you said. First, vision of IMPROVATE and why we've created what we created. And second, how can we be helpful in the times of crisis? Look, I think I'll share with you something personal, which is not normal usually to say. I think I'm looking at the world now and I'm very confused as to where it's going, right? I think a lot of people share this feeling as to we used to believe that we know something, and then for now we're in the station where it's a lot of unknown. And so when it's unknown, what you need is leadership, right? When you need a leadership, what can you expect possibly from leadership right now? So Alon will know what you need because that's what he needs to do now every morning, every day. You need to make decisions, and you need to make decisions based on the right values. That's what you expect from leadership, right? And also, what you want the leaders is you want them to have common sense, right? Now, if we look at the current world, 2 groups that, from my perspective, represent the leadership, which is people who impact the most, millions and millions of citizens. It's, of course, governments, elected officials, and everybody who works in governments. That's what you came to do, right? You came to impact as many lives as possible for better. But then there is also a growing tech companies, right? And so these 2 groups represent the world leadership now. Now, imagine if we had a situation where government and tech companies came together, started speaking the shared language. It's not easy. It's a very different mentality, but ultimately you hold the keys for the betterment of the whole world. So this is where IMPROVATE comes into place. What we created a platform which allows governments and technological companies come together, find a better language, find a shared language, build a shared language, and work towards making the world a better place. So that's the vision, briefly. Now, to the next question that you said, you asked, what can we do in crisis? I'll say something maybe, I hope a lot of you will understand me. I get a lot of invitations to a lot of events, and it used to be physically, and now it's virtually. And so usually you have these conferences and gatherings, and you name it, and now we're all in Zoom, right? And what you usually the focus of those events is, one, what kind of problem we have. Second, who we're going to blame for that problem. So this is kind of the discussion. Now, while I believe strongly that you need to go deep and understand how you came to the problem, and you need to know what thinking brought you to this problem, ultimately spending time and wasting time on discussing who is to blame, I think in any situation is waste of time. But in the situation of crisis as such, I think we just can't allow it to ourselves. So the idea of this gathering, and it's the second of many, is that we wanted to build a platform that brings together people who are like-minded and who want to feel that they're part of a group of people who want to find solutions. So they want to be part of solutions, not part of the problems. Now, today we're going to deal with the very basic, the most basic question, food, right? And that's we didn't choose to start it, by surprise. This is the basic, but this is what we want to be. We want to make sure that people come here and say, okay, we are part of the solution, we are part of the optimism, we are facing the reality, but let's see how we can make lemonade out of lemons.
It's so important what you say, and really speaks to the essence of this whole conference and the concept of IMPROVATE, as you said, that it is not here just to have conversations more broadly about problems and solutions, but actually to see how we take the concrete next step to make those concrete connections, which we'll be doing here throughout the broadcast and after. And Israeli Minister Shuster, let me turn it over to you to say a few words, and I'll go ahead and translate for our viewers watching around the world.
אני שמח להיות כאן שותף לאירינה ולחברים באירופה. מדינת ישראל נמצאת כמו כל העולם במשבר גדול, אמר דברים נכונים. אני בעברי הייתי 16 שנים ראש מועצה מול רצועת עזה. So
I'll stop you there for just a moment to translate for our viewers watching along that you're very happy to be here, of course, with Irina and the ministers and the distinguished guests from around the world, and that Israel, like every other country around the world, is right now in crisis, and you yourself have some extensive experience as the head of a regional area in Israel.
צמוד לרצועת עזה,
right near the Gaza Strip,
עם הקושי הגדול שלנו ושל השכנים שלנו, ומה שלמדתי זה שבזמן משבר, אני ממשיך את הדברים החשובים שאמרה אירינה, זה לא הזמן להטיל אחריות, זה הזמן לשתף פעולה, לטעות זה אנושי, ולשתף פעולה זה אלוהי.
So he says he absolutely agrees, of course, with what Irina just said, that a time of crisis like this, certainly, that we are in, is not a time to lay blame elsewhere, but rather for unity to come together for concrete solutions and really take a step forward to the future. And again, that's exactly what we're here to do. Thank you, Minister Shuster. We'll be coming back to you, of course, when we hear from ministers from right here in Israel and across southeastern Europe. But let's move on now to one of our guests of honor, really, who's also co-chair of this event. Rosen Plevneliev served as Bulgaria's fourth president from 2012 to 2017. And both before and after the presidency, he was involved in building for the future. A successful entrepreneur, a minister of regional development, a key player in the Balkans' very first innovation ecosystem, and a patron of high-tech industries. President Plevneliev, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. I'm so proud to be with you. I want to welcome everyone, and especially I want to thank all, of course, the organizers, the beautiful, wonderful Ronit, her team, but I want to thank the ministers from all over Southeast Europe, the deputy ministers, the state secretaries. You see, just one fact. Today, we have extraordinary meetings of government of Greece, extraordinary meetings of government of Bulgaria, extraordinary meetings of government of Croatia. But those people are coming with us and are sending a very strong signal that Israel is beloved and respected country, and we had such a strong participation all over Southeast Europe. But Southeast Europe itself is a dramatically better changing region, very positively. Countries are coming together in a friendship, in connectivity, in cooperation, excluding Turkey. Speaking about Southeast Europe, we have 10 countries, $600 billion of turnover per year, $70 billion of agricultural output per year, $20 billion per year of investments. Those are the numbers for 2019, and they speak for themselves. But the potential is even much bigger because the countries in Southeast Europe are coming together in a cooperation, in a connectivity, and the agricultural industry in all its aspects is very, very fastly growing, moving up. We want to see more Israeli investments, more Israeli companies, and we want to welcome every single one of them.
Well, it definitely speaks to the time, and you're right. And an extra thank you to all of those taking part today when I know all of those meetings are going on, as you mentioned, in Bulgaria as well, to try to deal with this crisis that's still ongoing. I want to ask you, I mean, you have the unique experience of being both on the side of government and innovation. And in this case, agriculture, as Irina just said, we're talking about very basic human needs, food and water. So what are some of the challenges that Southeastern Europe is actually facing right now?
Southeast Europe is moving together in a very positive direction. If you look at the countries like Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, Slovenia, but also Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, all those countries understand the importance of peace, of cooperation, of win-win cooperation, and they're coming together in a way that giving an example to the world. So Southeast Europe today, excluding Turkey, is a symbol of cooperation, of peace, of development. We have amazing opportunities here, speaking especially of the ecosystems that are created in Greece, in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Croatia, and all those countries. We have a lot of investments. We have a lot of companies coming in, companies big and small that are making successful businesses here. And we want to see more. If you look just at the agricultural sector here in Southeast Europe, it's huge. It's, as I said, $70 billion per year. You have big and small farmers, big and small food production companies. Some of the world giants make successful business here, from Cargill and John Deere, some of them represented by Israeli companies. But some others, like small and medium-sized farmers, companies, are moving ahead. There is a lot of money coming in. There is a huge plan to develop the region from 2020 to 2027 with European money, but also sources of the local government. There is a demand for digitalization, water management. There is a demand for accelerated modernization, technological innovations and renovations. All those things are happening here, and Israeli companies will be right here in the right place to help us and, of course, make a good business out of it.
Well, so let me take that a step further then. How do you think IMPROVATE can be a platform for bringing Israeli innovation and tech companies into Southeastern Europe?
Well, let me give you just one example. I'm also, in the last 10 to 20 years, traveling all over the region. I love my region. The Balkans, Southeast Europe is a beautiful, wonderful part of Europe. And I saw many Israeli investors, businessmen coming, trying to do something. They're trying to establish some contacts, do some representative offices, spending a lot of time, spending a lot of money, sometimes in an inefficient way. IMPROVATE is the only platform I saw. It's truly amazing and extremely efficient. Just in 2-3 days, you get full knowledge of the market. You see the ministers, the deputy ministers, the bosses of the investment agencies that are pouring billions into agriculture, the big farmers, the small farmers, the Israeli communities all over the region. In 2 to 3 days, you can understand, you can see, you can connect, and you can make business. And that is why we're very positive that IMPROVATE is a platform bringing everybody who is anybody together. And it's not just about bringing them together, but about making business. So we're planning visits to Greece, to Croatia, to Bulgaria, to Romania very soon as the health situation improves. Yeah. And Israeli businessmen, global investors, banks, local people, everybody will come together, and I'm sure we will have a very successful process ahead of us.
Well, until the global health situation does improve, we are here laying the groundwork and making those connections. Thanks so much, President Plevneliev. And of course, stay with us. You'll be with us throughout this special broadcast. From there, I want to dump to Jerusalem. I want to bring into the conversation Nikolai Mladinov. For the past 5 years, he's been the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process. Mr. Mladinov, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So given your role at the United Nations, I imagine you have a lot to say about recent developments between Israel and the Emirates. We, of course, have to ask you about that. So tell us, how do you see these major shifts contributing to economic ties in the region?
I'm truly excited about that. I'm truly excited because it opens up amazing opportunities for cooperation, not just between the Gulf, the UAE, Bahrain, and potentially others in Israel, but also between the Gulf, Israel, and Southeastern Europe. And I'd like to take it in that direction because I think all three components of this regional potential relationship have massive amounts of opportunities to offer each other. Israel has a very dynamic high-tech sector. Bulgaria and Romania and other countries in Southeastern Europe are going through a fintech wave, if you wish, in the last couple of years. The UAE also has a very dynamic high-tech sector and capital opportunities. And I would like to urge all of you to look at the opportunities of how to harness the Abraham Accords and cooperation in Southeastern Europe and really see a wave of Agri-Tech development that is so necessary everywhere we looked at. President Plednev spoke about the potential for the region. That potential is just the beginning. The real potential for Southeast Europe is the massive human capital that people have there, and the great innovation skills that everybody holds, the good relationships and the openness that we have towards each other. And really, I see the opportunities as quite endless. I would really, really encourage you to look at not just Southeast Europe and Israel, but also involve the Gulf more in this relationship. It's an exciting time for everyone.
Indeed, and it's an important reminder that one development, for example, as you're talking about between the Emirates and Israel, doesn't only stay there, it has implications that are actually much larger than that. So if we're to look forward a little bit, I mean, lately there's been a lot of talk about which nation might be next to enter into a peace agreement with Israel. So from your knowledge and familiarity with this region, who do you think we might see next?
Well, that's $1 million question. Sure. I think there's a bit of a lull right now because of the US election, and people will wait to consolidate the agreements that have been signed and to make sure that the transport, economic, diplomatic relations are really established and fully functioning. But I would expect this process to continue after the US elections. And I think really when you look at the opportunities, they're just amazing. And they're not just in the economic field, they're in the people-to-people contacts, into universities, into getting to know each other. And really ultimately, in my UN capacity, I must say that they're critical for peace. Peace in the region can only be achieved through dialogue and discussion. It cannot be achieved through disengagement. And I hope that these agreements will really help bring about more peace here for Israelis, for Palestinians, but more broadly for the region as a whole, and will create a really fundamental base for the entire Middle East to kick out of this constant period of crisis that it has been for such a long time, and really harness the opportunities of the future.
Well, I mean, you already mentioned it a little bit. You spoke about the greater picture, but the focus of this conference today is, of course, Southeastern Europe. So how do you envision the potential for cooperation between Israeli technology and that region?
I would say Southeast Europe has a few unique aspects to it. One is not just the physical, but the emotional closeness to Israel. We understand each other. We work very well and easily with each other. That's an important starting point. Secondly, it has a very well-developed agricultural sector across the board. And thirdly, it is an excellent entry point towards the European Union market. Now, also, considering where we are today in the midst of a COVID crisis and a global economic crisis, I think linking up Israeli and Southeastern European startups, particularly in the agricultural sector, in the fintech sector, it will be critically important to dealing with the challenges of the future. And last but not least, and my good friends, President Plednev and Minister Desi Taneva know very well, Bulgaria in particular has a very favorable tax base. And I think that favorable tax base is also extremely important to supporting innovation and moving forward. I remember many years ago when the late President Peres in one of his many visits to Bulgaria, we spoke extensively about the opportunities to look at bringing our agricultural sectors together in innovative research, in new methods, in technology, etc. I think these are real opportunities that need to be brought about for everyone.
Well, thank you so much to Nikolai Mladinov for the important work that you do and for taking the time to be here with us. As we said, during this time of crisis, when it's, of course, a packed time to join a conference. Thanks so much for weighing in.
Thank you.
Well, let's dive deeper now to take a look at the challenges and the opportunities, like we just heard about, in agriculture from the senior officials on the front line, so to speak. Honorable ministers from Israel and Southeastern Europe are here to chime in. Still here with us, Alon Shuster, Israel's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Tugomir Majda, Croatia's State Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Adrian Oros, Romania's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Theodoros Karoglou, Special Minister for Macedonia and Thrace, and Greek Deputy Minister of Rural Development and Food, Foteni Arampatsi, along with Desislava Taneva, Bulgaria's Minister of Agriculture, Food and Forestry. They have all invested in a key change for the future and how to transform agriculture from the traditional methods that we all know to smart agri-tech solutions. Thank you all so much for being with us from all of your countries again in this time of crisis. And I want to begin with Adrian Oros, a Romanian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Tell us a little bit about your country. What kind of challenges in agriculture is Romania facing today?
You're talking to me?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you okay. Please go ahead.
Then, good morning, everybody. Actually, I'm George Stefan. I'm State Secretary. Sorry, Mr. Minister Adrian Oros is not available now. His agenda is very busy. So if you accept me today,
of course,
I can be your partner.
With great pleasure.
Yes. First of all, let me congratulate you for this meeting. It's a great opportunity for our countries to come together and trying to find some solutions, some answers for our problems, because of course, Romania, as our neighbor, Bulgaria, Croatia, and the rest of the Southeast countries, we are facing with this global warming, which it's very hard for us, for agriculture, because that means to change a little bit our mentality, to change our way to make and to do agriculture in our countries. So the water in those conditions become a problem for our, the fresh water. It's a problem for us, and our irrigation system become one of the main problem and one of the main challenges for our countries. In this way, I think I'm not wrong. Israel, it's the best example, which I know in doing economy of fresh water. And Israel also is the best example in irrigation system. And we are very interested to collaborate, not Romania, of course, Bulgaria and the rest of the country, to take a little bit from your experience. Of course, this global warming probably will continue to be one of the main problems for our agriculture. But this year we have to face the problem of the pandemic COVID-19, which affect Romania very, very strong. Several of our countries starting in the same time in March with Romania to face the pandemic COVID-19. Several measures were adopted that affect the whole sector of economy, including the agriculture and agri-food sector. Of course, there is a good happening because, of course, our farmers, they sell the production in Romania to the Romanian market, to the Romanian consumers, because a lot of exporters, they couldn't come with their products in Romania because of the restriction of the pandemic COVID-19.
Sure.
The farmers were facing, pardon?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and in the other hand, the farmers were facing with delay in providing the necessary inputs in order to carry on the agriculture.
We can hear you
Pardon?
okay. We can hear you okay. You can continue.
Yeah, okay, sorry. We have to adapt the conditions.
Yeah, this is live now on Zoom.
Yeah, on Zoom. We prefer live, but it's not possible.
One day in the near future, we all hope.
Let's hope, yes, as soon as possible. So the situation generated a lower production and the incapacity of providing the necessary food for the population. Considering all those problems for the agricultural sector, we consider the support that the common agriculture policy is offering in the future essential to overcome this crisis. Sure, next year we are ready to start the new financing period for 2021-2027. We are waiting for the EU regulation in order to adopt our national legislation and national measures and priority. And but day by day, let's recognize agriculture become one of the most important sector in each country.
Sure.
We are talking about food. The population, the world population, is increasing day by day.
Well,
so food. Pardon?
On that note, I want to bring in some other nations who I imagine are having similar problems to what you're talking about. And again, we're talking about such a fundamental thing about food. Let's talk to also Theodoros Karoglou joining this conversation, Special Minister for Macedonia and Thrace. And I know that agriculture already makes up a very big part of your local economy. So tell us, what kind of technologies are you actually looking for? What do you need? I think
just a moment.
There we go. I think we might have lost your audio for a moment. So we'll jump back to you in just 1 second. I think you're on mute. So let's move on.
Do you listen me?
We can now. We can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning from Athens. Dear audience and participants of this conference, I kindly thank you for inviting me to attend today's video conference for Smart Agri-Tech in Southeastern Europe. I believe that it's really important to exchange views for the future, and I'm convinced that through conversation, the best options are discovered and new ways of collaborating that we've never even imagined are brought to light. First of all, I want to thank my very good friend, the former president of Bulgaria, Robert Plevneliev, for the excellent conception of organizing this online meeting. He has proven to be a great friend of Greece through time, and he is always by our side. I recently visited him in this office at the Science and Technology Park of Bulgaria, the Sofia Tech Park, and we exchanged ideas as to how we can create mutual prosperous collaboration between our two countries, having as common ground the Sofia Tech Park and the fourth generation Science and Technology Park, Thesin Tech, that has already started to be implemented at the municipality of Thermaikos Thessaloniki. Today, dear friends, with the participation of our distinguished guests from Israel, we take a step forward to a substantial deepening of our cooperation. Through this online conference, we explore our newfound options for partnership that are developing by technology. Innovation is the future, and of course, it is unimaginable to not use it in the Department of Agriculture. So we are given a precious chance Bulgaria, Greece, Israel, and all other countries are to create a powerful cooperation triangle by strengthening and expanding our strategic relationships in various sections. We are natural allies, and the relations between our countries are based in historical bonds through centuries that set us their foundation, our mutual respect and common vision. By realizing a true solid radiant partnership, we will be able to make good use of our scientists and future our people's talents. About Greece, I can assure you that we are capable of expanding our chains for investments on the sector of agriculture. As I saw in the panel, we have my dear colleague, Mrs. Arabadji Fotini. So I think that I must close because my schedule is really heavy, so I won't be able to participate in all this conference. But I want to tell you that I would like to thank you for this invitation, and I will happily welcome you all to Thessaloniki in order to discuss the innovative investment opportunities that Macedonia and Thrace have to provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Theodoros Koroglou, Special Minister for Macedonia and Thrace. And of course, still watching along with us throughout this broadcast is our co-chair, Rosen Plevneliev, the former Bulgarian president. Would you like to respond a little bit to what we've heard so far, to some of the challenges these nations are facing?
The most important thing is that we're coming together. You see all those countries in Southeast Europe, they give an extraordinary example for peaceful and successful cooperation. Secondly, you see that there is a demand for more cooperation with Israel. Israel is a beloved country. Israeli companies are high-tech. For example, in some sectors, real estate, they dominate the region. The biggest investments in the region are coming from Israel, and very successful, very, very, very successful. Now we want to see more because the agricultural sector has a huge potential. It's moving up. All those countries, and agriculture goes beyond the borders. It is, again, something that brings us all together. You see the political will of people today under pressure, ministers, deputy ministers, with a lot of big problems to share, like the COVID-19. But everybody is here today with us to show his respect and his willingness that we want to do more in the agri-sector together with Israel.
Thanks very much. And on that note, I want to bring in the economy minister from your country, Lazar Borisov. Thank you so much for being with us. And give us your perspective, Minister. You have a wealth of experience in investment and international economic programs and working with private and public companies. I mean, what do you think about the potential for cooperation here?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in that conference. I think that conference is very important for us and also for the region and also for our partners. Now I'm switching on in that conference from my home because I'm in a quarantine period, but the most important thing that we are together today, and I think that our sign today from that conference is that we have to be strong together. That was also a slogan of our EU presidency. But when we are talking about these two sectors, innovations and also the agriculture, this is the most important sectors in that period during that unprecedented crisis, during that unprecedented pandemic crisis. These are the most important sectors for our economies because they are not related. Their development is not related with the pandemic crisis. So that means that now we have to be strong together and we have to work together. Bulgaria also puts emphasis on the promotion of innovations and technology-driven growth, but one of our very important partners, Israel, and Israel is our valued economic partner, and it's a highly industrial nation, and we have several projects together with them, and we have to work together with them. But I also would like to highlight that at the moment, Bulgaria is in a very, strong economic situation. I would like to highlight that Bulgaria is in the top 5 countries in terms of the decline of the GDP in that crisis. Bulgaria is among the leaders in terms of the credit rating here in the region, and we are ready to attract investments in those sectors. And on the other side, Bulgaria is among the leaders in terms of the financial stability. In the moment, we are, number 2, comparing with the EU countries in terms of financial stability, and I mean the indicator gross debt as a percentage of GDP. So now we are in a condition to accelerate all of our initiatives and to improve all of our potential to be strong together. So I would like also once again to thank you for your initiative. My deputy minister is together with us, and also we have together with us our Minister of Agriculture, who is also in that conference. I would like to apologize because we also have a meeting together with the Prime Minister and also with the Council of Ministers, and I have to leave earlier, but my colleagues are together with you. And my personal message is that we have to be strong together, and we have to go forward to find the best way to be sure to find the best way against the crisis.
Minister Borisov, thanks very much. Certainly very important meetings happening there today to deal with the reality that is all around us. We really appreciate you taking the time in the midst of that busy day. And your message is clear. Bulgaria is ripe for investment and for cooperation. As you mentioned, we'll be hearing more from your country throughout this broadcast. And let's join to the conversation another country, another minister, Greek Deputy Minister Foteni Arampatsi. Thanks so much for joining us as well. And tell us a little bit from your end, how has this global pandemic affected your agriculture industry?
Well, good morning from Athens. I would like very much to thank you for this opportunity you gave me to attend this meeting, and let me congratulate you about the organization of this important conference. And I underline the word important, because it's well known that the digital transformation in the agricultural sector, the so-called smart or precision agriculture, will play a decisive role in the next years. Because it aims to the reduction of the production cost, of course, and in the adjustment of the requirements of the Green Deal. I would also like to convey to you the greetings of our Minister, Mr. Mikis Boridis, who is not here with us because he has to attend the cabinet meeting. Well, as far as the pandemic is referred, although food shortages or food insecurity have not been observed in my country, Greece, as a result of the current pandemic, the steady income of producers has certainly been affected because of the looming global economic uncertainty and, of course, the threat of unemployment. There is no doubt, however, that even here in Greece, the COVID-19 pandemic has left its marks on a number of areas of the agricultural production of my country. The main feature of its impact is the decrease in sales, including, of course, the exports, as well as problems in finding labor and ensuring the transport of the labor here in Greece. In the direction set by our Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, that no farmer, stock farmer, beekeeper, fisherman who suffered damage because of COVID-19 will remain unsupported. A sum of 150 million euro was allocated to our ministry at the first stage, channeled to those affected in all objective and prudent manner, with every provision made also for consequences that may arise in the future. The 150 million euro fund is allocated on the basis for the provisional framework for state measures taken with a view to supporting the economy during the current rise of the COVID-19 disease, while extra resources will also be allocated from the funds remaining from the current plan of rural development program, the so-called second pillar, and the fisheries and maritime operational program as well. So we have already proceeded to support the following areas: sheep and goat rearing with 30 million euro, floriculture with 10 million euro, asparagus cultivation with 4.7 million euro, fisheries on the ground of reduction or cessation of fishing activities with 15.25 million and 20 million euro respectively, wine producers through crisis distillation with 20.25 million euro, wine growers through green harvesting with 1 million euro, olive growers with 126.3 million euro from the rural development program, producers of table olives, potatoes, watermelons, and greenhouse cultivations of tomatoes, cucumbers, and aubergines in Crete with 39.6 million euro, while a relevant decision regarding the support of the sector of aquaculture is also expected soon. At the same time, we consider the support of further individual areas such as poultry production, pig farming, buffalo rearing, that provided that the connection of the income reduction with the pandemic can be demonstrated, can be proven. Moreover, issues arising with the transport of farmers, as well as with hiring land and fishing workers from abroad, were immediately and effectively addressed. Nonetheless, all in all, the pandemic may also be seen as an opportunity for Greek agriculture and nutrition. Today, more than ever, the consumers seek quality, branded, safe products with traceability so that he or she may be sure of their COVID-free origin. Greek products take strongly here, as thanks to the successful management of COVID-19 in the first phase of the pandemic.
Sure. Deputy Minister Arampatsi, we're going to come back to you also in a short while about what technologies your country is also looking for. I think that note is very important, though, that often out of crisis comes opportunity, and out of crisis, some of the most impactful change can happen. So that's, of course, what we all hope to see happen here and from here on out. And let's bring one more minister into this conversation. Tugomir Majdak, Croatia's state secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. Great to have you joining us and to hear from your country. Tell us as well, from your vantage point, what kind of challenges Croatia is facing today, as we've been saying, amid this months-long pandemic.
Good day from Croatia. I want to thank to organizer to can participate on this very valuable conference. On the other hand, I want to apologize my lady minister who could not participate on this conference. Yes, in Croatia we are experiencing many challenges in the local agricultural sector, mainly regarding the increasing productivity and the resilience of agricultural production to climate change. We also put a great effort for strengthening the competitiveness and encouraging innovation in the agri-food sector, reconstruction of the rural economy, and improvement of living conditions in rural areas. Croatia is facing with a lack of competitiveness of our agro-food sector on the global markets. Considering the great import in this sector, we need to determine the reasons and models for improving the position of our producers. One of them is certainly the deficiency of functional producer organization, for which our producers have not enough interest. For us, it is necessary to increase productivity and resilience of agricultural production to climate change. We need to reconstruct the rural economy and improve living conditions in rural areas, as well to encourage innovation in the agro-food sector. One of our goals is to dedicate our policy towards improving of irrigation, introduce precision agriculture and drones for targeted use of pesticide to reduce the amount of pesticide used and crop monitoring by drones. In the context of the COVID pandemic, the increasing of the capacity, new technologies, short supply chains, innovation and connection of primary production with food industry. The direction Croatia aims for its faster creation of added value and resistance to disturbances, which refers to processing, repro centers, storage capacities, vegetable production indoors, and permanent crops with equipment for defense against natural disasters. In these extraordinary circumstances, the Ministry of Agriculture of Republic of Croatia tried to help agricultural producers through a package of measures. The total value of measures to help farmers in the pandemic is almost 67 million euro, with an additional 48 million euro of direct aid to farmers and processors. Finally, to say something about our relations with Israel in the field of agriculture. We have an intergovernmental agreement in agriculture and we consider it is the important trade partner. The experience of Israeli companies are very valuable for us, especially in the field of irrigation and smart agriculture. We are already using some of the Israeli products in our production and will continue to cooperate with Israel government and companies. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Majdak, for weighing in with us on your country's challenges. And certainly we hope that this conference can help bring some of that connection with those Israeli companies. We'll be hearing from 7 of them in just a few moments. But first, let's jump back to Bulgaria to hear from Minister Desislava Taneva, who will be joining us along with translation. Minister Taneva, great to have you with us. And talk to us also a little bit about technologies. What are you looking for in Bulgaria? Minister, if you can...
Моля ви да си включите микрофона.
Yes, just a quick unmute and we'll see if we can hear you.
Добър ден на всички първо. Благодаря за поканата да участвам в тази конференция.
Thank you very much for this invitation to participate in this conference.
И поздравления за организаторите.
Congratulations to the hosts.
Аз също съм от home office поради карантина.
I'm also in a home office mode because of a quarantine.
България, както и всички страни членки на Европейския съюз, подготвят стратегическите си планове за новия програмен период.
Bulgaria, along with all EU members,
You can hear us okay?
Member states are developing their
Can you hear us okay? I think the translation might be...
Чувате ли?
Да.
We'll give you just a moment to get back connected. We'll come back to you in just a minute. But until then, let's hear a little bit about Israel, because we've, of course, been talking a lot about the potential for cooperation with Israeli companies. And right here with us in the studio is Israeli Agriculture Minister, a Minister also of Rural Development, Alon Shuster. I will translate you also for our viewers. Tell us a little bit. I mean, we're going to be hearing from companies, 7 different leading Israeli companies in Agro-Tech. Give us your view on what Israeli Agro-Tech is all about, what it can contribute to this region.
לישראל יש מסורת מאוד חזקה של קשר לחקלאות. האתוס הציוני הלאומי התחיל בחקלאות, בחזרה לישראל.
Israel has a very strong connection with the ethos of agriculture, and that's something that really goes back to the concept of Zionism into the very beginning of the country.
היזמים, המפתחים של התוכנות, מחוברים מאוד לחקלאות, לפעמים באו כחקלאים, לפעמים יש להם משפחה או חברים, והקשר הזה הוא מאוד אינטראקטיבי, מאוד יציב.
Entrepreneurs are very connected to agriculture, and it's something that it really runs deep, and it's a very strong connection already in Israel.
יש בישראל רשת קונסיסטנטית מאוד יציבה, מהידע האקדמי, המחקר התיאורטי, המחקר היישומי, מחקר ופיתוח בשדה והחקלאים, והקשר הזה הוא מצוין.
So there is a very complex but very strong network in Israel between the researchers, between the sort of theoretical, more academic people who are looking into this, and between those actually making change on the ground.
אולי הדבר האחרון החשוב הוא שהחקלאים בישראל, אנשים שלמדו במשך 100 שנה לחלוק את הידע, להשתתף. יש ידע ציבורי, פתוח, וזה בדיוק מה שאנחנו עושים גם עם העולם.
So this is maybe the most important, the minister says, that there is such a wealth of knowledge already in this field, and it is open source, so to speak. Everybody is part of it, everybody shares in it and adds to it, and that's something that we're looking, of course, to do here as well in this conference, and that Israel can contribute a lot to. And we're going to be, of course, hearing from some of those companies in just a minute. But before that, let's jump back to Bulgarian Minister Desislava Taneva. Minister Taneva, please do continue a little bit about what you're looking for in terms of technology.
Thank you. Да продължа, най-амбициозната наша цел е свързана с цифровизацията на земеделието в България на всички нива. И тази амбициозна цел намира място в разработването на съответните проекти по плана за възстановяване и в момента в разписването на мерки в програмата за развитие на селските райони.
Okay, let me continue. Our most ambitious goal right now is the digitalization of agriculture at all levels. And this ambitious goal is reflected in the development of projects under the recovery plan and also for the new rural development program.
Ще ни позволи, освен да подобрим конкурентоспособността на фермерите, включително и на малките и средните все още недостатъчно пазарно ориентирани, и да ще ни помогне да постигнем амбициозните зелени цели по зелената сделка.
All this will allow us to increase the competitiveness of farmers, including small and medium-sized ones, which are not so market-oriented, and also achieve the green goals under the Green Deal.
Това е огромно предизвикателство. Ние разбираме това и се надявам, че ще може да намерим наистина партньори, които да помогнат за реализацията на тези проекти.
This is a huge challenge. We are aware of this, and we hope to be able to find partners to implement all these projects.
Тази цифровизация е свързана и с възможността да програмираме прилагането на щадящи околната среда земеделски практики. Това е амбициозна цел, част от целите по зелената сделка, и комуникираме активно, включително с научната общност в Европа, за това какви практики могат да бъдат прилагани щадящи околната среда, и се надявам, че ще намерим най-добрите такива.
This digitalization has to do with our programming of agricultural practices which are environment friendly. This is another ambitious goal, and we are in constant contact with the scientific community throughout Europe to find the best agri practices which are environment friendly indeed.
Втората амбициозна цел, стратегическа за нас, която ще бъде имплементирана и в програмата, която в момента и в стратегическия план, който в момента се изготвя, и също така сме подали проект по плана за възстановяване. Това са напоителните системи в България, изграждането им, рехабилитацията им и изграждането на водоспестяващи технологии за напояване.
Another strategic goal we have, something that will be reflected in the strategic program, in our strategic plan under development, and the recovery plan, is the irrigation, the construction, rehabilitation, and so on of irrigation systems in Bulgaria.
Ще се радваме. Израел има компании, които са напреднали в тези области. Ще се радваме на интерес и на партньорство. Всичко до момента като вътрешен дебат, като изследвания, като практики, които сме намерили, всичко ни е качено на сайта на Министерството на земеделието и всеки заинтересован от процесите, които в момента текат по изготвянето на националните стратегически планове, може да намери това на нашия сайт.
We'd be happy to find friends in the face of Israeli companies which are very much advanced in the field of irrigation systems. So any interest, any partnerships would be welcome. And everything we've done so far in terms of debates and good practices has been uploaded on the website of the ministry. So we'll be happy if you have a look at this.
Great. Minister Taneva, thanks so much. And on that note, let me just take it a step further, because we are, of course, talking about making real concrete connections here between decision makers like yourself in government and leaders in agri-tech. So let's get right into the first Israeli company in that field, Agri-Go. Since its inception, they've entered and succeeded in multiple fields of agriculture, from vertical pig and poultry integrations to smart greenhouses. Today, they work as a contractor for engineering, procurement, and construction, providing high-quality and biologically safe protein products to markets all over the world. Right here with us in the studio, CEO Guy Mindel. Guy, thanks so much for being here.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about Agri-Go and what makes you most sort of proud of this work.
So, to an extent, our vision is also, let's make it work. When it comes to complex agricultural projects, what clients are willing to have is one phase that takes full responsibility for all stages of the project. That's why Agri-Go decided to be a turnkey integrator and guarantee ultimate success for our clients, from the civil works through technological solutions and up to the operational management. We begin each project with feasibility study, understanding the local requirements, climate conditions, and even mentality. Only then we design a unique tailor-made concept with all necessary engineering and construction solution to optimize our client production. As a result, we create sustainable agricultural project with built-in expansion potential for decades to come. And I'm proud when I look at the bigger pictures of our work. As Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Our partner and clients not only achieve financial profit, but also contribute to the general good, improvement quality of life, food security, and plant-friendly solutions. But let's watch the movie and see about what we do. The picture was 1,000 words.
That's a good.
The world population has reached 7.5 billion as of 2017. This staggering population growth rate, along with a growing urbanization phenomenon, demands efficient production technology from a reliable producer. In this constantly growing and evolving market, it's critical to find a balance between efficiency, cost-effectiveness, consumer demands, and future development. We at Agri-Go know precisely how to strike that balance. We know how to increase production of high-quality, high-demand agricultural products. We know how to choose the components suitable exactly for your production line. We know how to adapt them to work in local conditions. From the smallest chicken farm to broad rural development projects, we know how to guarantee profit, quality, and flexibility for future expansion. Agrigo specializes in the development and infrastructure of 5 key branches: poultry farms, pig complexes, closed system fish farms, dairy farms, and greenhouses. Agrigo has decades of experience in the planning, establishment, and management of agricultural projects in countries all over the world. We work in accordance with international standards that meet the needs of every individual client. Agrigo's experience, combined with our access to cutting-edge technology, will help adapt your project to local conditions, giving you the best possible bottom line. We use innovative industrial technology and cooperate with the world's leading manufacturers to ensure maximum efficiencies. Our systems reach record-breaking feed conversion rates, no matter the location. Our experts, along with our technology solutions, help you to combine all of your project's components, from planning to financing, engineering to production, into one successful unified system, always keeping in mind one goal: to create a reliable, biologically safe system that reduces costs, increases productivity, and accelerates the return of investment. Contact us, and we'll help you meet your demands.
Well, we just heard a little bit about the innovative, cutting-edge technologies to increase the bottom line, which of course is important for everyone. This is business after all. So give us some examples.
Sure. First of all, we speak the language of the animals. Our engineering solutions are based on the needs of the animals to give them what they cannot ask. For example, we realized the critical importance of clean, fresh air, invented our unique solution for ventilation that is now integrated as part of every building we construct. It allows us to direct the fresh air where it's required to keep the livestock healthy, prevent diseases, and ensure the best FCR and productivity while saving energy costs. It was just one of the many examples. Today, our in-house development range from ecological and biosecurity solutions for construction to high-tech innovations. We are using decision support system based on smart artificial intelligence and real-time big data analysis. We know how to work in extreme temperatures, from -30 in the winter up to +50 in the summer.
Wow.
How to cope with sandstorms and high humidity, or how to render the waste per most demanding ecological standards. We stay with our clients after the launch, to provide operational and management services. Our goal is to train local personnel so they will be able to take over in the long run to continue the successful operation.
And an important reminder how dramatically agriculture varies from place to place and from region to region. You mentioned those extreme temperatures you work in. So what is really the secret to being an expert, to succeeding in this field, in so many different parts of this field?
Our expertise didn't come overnight, but resulted from fundamental step-by-step development for over 20 years. Agrigo is a private company built on generation of agricultural and engineering solutions. We started with greenhouses, moved to poultry, then pigs, aquaculture, and so on. In our integration, we maximize the local potential and enhance it with our practical experience. Today, our key asset is a team of experts in every field we work, who let us make informed decisions and see emerging opportunities. For example, new technologies for RAS fish farms. And we will keep learning, keep growing, and keep improving the world. Welcome you to join us.
Thanks so much to Agrigo CEO Guy Mendel. One example, one of 7 that we're going to hear, concrete examples of Israeli leaders in Agro-Tech to make those connections that we're talking about between those decision makers and the change makers. And I want to just jump back briefly to former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev, who has been watching, listening along with us throughout this broadcast. You've heard a little bit now from all these different countries. Tell us a little bit your reaction so far.
Thank you. Actually, in my life, I've been an engineer, a CEO, an investor, a president, a minister. When I look at the presentation of Agrigo, as an engineer, I'm so excited. It's really a cutting-edge working solutions that are serving people and countries and helping productivity and production moving up. And I'm very grateful. And I will be looking at all those presentations with a great excitement. But also we heard from the different countries something extremely important about the region. You should know. We all need to know. Now, because those countries we focus today are members of the European Union, they do have now something very special as a process of planning, because the European Union is planning for 7 years. 2021, 2027 is now in a planning phase. And it's about, for agriculture, almost $400 billion that are going to go for agriculture. Out of those $400 billion, approximately 80 to $90 billion are going to the countries in Southeast Europe. We are talking about Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia. And this is something extraordinary. So we're now right in the right timing. Those countries are open for Israeli businesses. They want to manage their water better. They want to manage to digitalize. Just one fact about Bulgaria, because I was the Minister of Regional Development in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is very rich on water. We waste 65% of water in the pipes. We waste 65% of water. Imagine if we can do it in a different way. Because of that, water management is a huge potential. A lot of money will be coming to the region for that. Digitalization of big and small farmers. And especially today, we have the planning. The governments that are with us today, they plan how to move all those big funds into serving the local farmers. And we are very excited about those presentations, and even more excited to see those companies from Israel, world-leading companies, coming to our region and working together.
Thanks so much, President Plevneliev. And we'll hear a little bit more in just one moment, actually, about what you were talking about some of the needs in Bulgaria. I want to jump back to the ministers that are, of course, watching along with us and joining us from Israel and across Southeastern Europe. Also joining the conversation now is Maria Haristova. She's counselor to the Bulgarian Minister of Agriculture, Food and Forestry. Thanks so much for joining us. So maybe you can expand a little bit on what we just heard. I mean, what kind of opportunities do you think there are for Israeli agri-tech companies there?
First of all, I would like to congratulate you for organizing this event. It's really interesting. I'm looking forward to the next presentations. The first one was very interesting and really related to the needs of technological transformation. I would like to express some information for the agriculture sector and the market size. We have 80,000 agriculture holdings, and we're speaking about approximately 5 billion euro for 2018 annual turnover. So the overall aspiration of the ministry is to increase the digital transformation of the sector as stipulated and in alignment with the European Union aspirations. Currently, we see great potential for digitalization of the sector, and we see a room for improvement compared to other European countries. What is the potential? We believe that the Israeli companies might be interested to deliver precise agriculture solutions oriented towards IoT technologies, cloud-based solutions, and technologies improving the internal processes of the holdings. Another area that outlines such opportunities is the livestock sector, where Bulgarian dairy farmers could get to know and learn from the Israeli experience and know-how in animal husbandry and high milk yields. Also, scientific and technical cooperation in the field of agriculture science is also important for deepening the Bulgarian-Israeli relations. I'm part of the coordination team for strategic planning for the next programming period. And the most important for us is technology transformation of the livestock sector. and mainly any smart tracking systems for animals, and also for positioning of the animals and their well-being. It's very important. Also, we have identified different sectors and the need of transformation for them. In the case of fruit and vegetable farms, it's necessary to invest mainly in machines for processing and harvesting. In the field of crops production, it's necessary to invest in modernization of machines, equipment, IoT applications, and web tools for digitalizations of the agriculture. I already said with respect to the livestock farming, we are looking for smart IoT solutions, for example, smart tracking devices for tracking the location and well-being of the animals. And the overall aim is for farmers to be able to digitally monitor what processing they have carried out, and to be able to plan the agriculture activities, as well as to monitor the quality and control the work of each operator on the farm. These are the needs we have identified in the process of strategic planning, and our next step in the ministry is to implement those needs in the future measures, interventions in the strategic plan for the Common Agriculture Policy in the next programming period. Now we are in the process of implementing these needs, and I'm looking forward to hear the very interesting examples and companies and also solutions for digital transformation. Thank you very much.
Ms. Haristova, thanks so much for that. And I think really the people watching, especially the Israeli companies, and here the Israeli Agriculture Minister will find that very helpful and very practical sort of guidance on what your country is looking for going forward and how to start that cooperation. I want to jump also to another country who joined us before, representative of Romania's Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mr. George Stefan. So talk to us a little bit also practically about what kind of opportunities there are for Israeli agri-tech companies there.
Well, Romania considers that the agricultural sector must step definitely into digital era. Innovation is a tool, means to define mainly the structural changes and the openness for the farmers market. The use of innovation technology is reflected in social, economical, and the environment benefits, as increase of the production, decrease of fuel consumption, improvement of work condition for farmers, which is a real problem, maintaining the soil structure, preservative and improvement of soil futures, significant decrease of erosion risk, increase of water reserve in the soil. The innovative technology is considered important in enabling sustainable development framework, creating a balance between economic development, production, and protecting public interest goods. In this regard, it's necessary to foster technology used in a precision farming such satellite. So that means drone images to determine the need of water and fertilizers, monitoring crop health and level of development. Also, another necessary technology for Romanian agriculture is using of sensors network to determine the soil humidity. I'm saying that because day by day the water become a real problem. Fresh water become a real problem for Romania and for the country around Romania. Well, agriculture and agri-food market has no borders today. Water, finally, has no border. Water become, in my opinion, and Romanian opinion, the most challenging problem for our country. Also using GPS to limit soil compression and fuel consumption. Use of sensors and automatization is also a very important problem. Robotics to optimize crops and protected areas, but also in the vegetable and the livestock sector. So we can see a lot of challenging for the agriculture in the future. I hear before our colleague from Greece talking about aquaculture, and also in Romania, aquaculture is one of the sector very, very bad affected by the global warming and for lack of water. Romania has a huge capacity in these fields, a good opportunity for our countries to collaborate in this field, because we have more than 100,000 hectares dedicated to aquaculture. And so Romania can produce, you can imagine, I don't want to give you now some tonnage or some kilograms for production, but the opportunity is huge. Yeah.
What you're saying is it's just another reminder. We've been talking so much about the COVID pandemic and that crisis, but really, as you point to, there's a much bigger crisis that has been going on much longer than the COVID pandemic of global warming. And that is, of course, as you say, something that is so directly related to what we're talking about right here.
In my opinion, the pandemic COVID should stop in one day. I can give you some horizon in this field, but the global warming definitely will become our serious challenge for our country. So in this way, collaboration, as the Americans said, you know what means a good business, location. For our countries, I think the key success is talking, or collaboration.
Well, so this is a good start, and let's continue that talking. I want to jump back to Bulgarian Minister Desislava Taneva. Since we're speaking practically now about the challenges and needs, if you were to say, choose one central area, one kind of technology that Bulgaria is most in need of next, what might that be? Minister Taneva, if you can hear me, I'll ask again. I'm wondering if there is one specific kind of technology, one field in agriculture that Bulgaria is most in need of right now.
Всичко, което сме идентифицирали като нужди и като потребности, го казват слот анализите и ще бъде имплементирано в националния стратегически план. Това ще го изберат земеделските производители.
Everything that has been identified as needs has been analyzed by means of SWOT analysis. And all this has been reflected in the national strategic plans. This is something that our farmers have identified.
Аз обясних двете стратегически цели, по които ние така или иначе, за да ги реализираме, това може да стане на основата на партньорства с компании, които са напред в тази област. Но земеделието е частен сектор. Това е набор от инструменти, които ще бъдат на разположение на земеделските производители. И те ще си изберат технологиите, които смятат за най-адаптирани към тяхното земеделие.
I already explained the two strategic goals we have, and those goals will be implemented based on partnerships with companies advanced in the field. Agriculture, however, is a private-oriented sector. All available tools, high-tech tools, will be up to the farmers to choose, depending on their needs.
Ние се нуждаем. Да, цифровизацията е една стратегическа задача. Това, което в ежедневието трябва да изберат земеделските производители, да могат да го правят Това са щадящи околната среда земеделски практики. И по водоспестяващи технологии, и по обработка на растениевъдството по начин, по който става с минимални водни ресурси.
Yes, we do need digitalization, something that I mentioned, but I repeat again that it is up to the farmers in their daily activities to choose from among all the available tools that our partners will provide. And I will highlight again practices that are environment friendly, that are water saving, and others.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks so much, Minister Taneva, for that guidance. And I want to sort of take what we've heard here so far and come back to Israeli Minister of Agriculture, Alon Shuster of Agriculture and Rural Development. So, I mean, we've heard how Israel is a global leader in innovation. We've heard a little taste of what kind of companies we have here, but how are you supporting them to actually help grow into the world?
אנחנו קודם כל מחויבים לאגרוטק שלנו, לפיתוח החקלאות שלנו. אנחנו רואים בהתקדמות החקלאים ובייצוא הידע דרך לשמר את החקלאות החזקה בישראל.
So we are first of all committed to our own agriculture industries, to Agro-Tech, and we see in preserving that the ability to both export it and keep agriculture and Agro-Tech strong right here in Israel.
יש כסף ממשלתי משמעותי שמושקע במחקר, אני אמרתי קודם, כל המחקר האקדמי, התיאורטי, המעשי, היישומי, בעיקר בתחומים שהשוק הפרטי פחות נכנס אליהם, כמו עצי פרי, שלוקח המון זמן, או רפתות, חלב, שדורש השקעות מאוד גדולות.
So there is a lot of government funding and interest in supporting many of those companies in areas where actually the private sector doesn't get quite as involved, like fruit trees or like certain dairy issues.
יש בישראל, במשרד אחר, רשות חדשנות. ורשות החדשנות בעצם נותנת את הגשר בין הרעיונות היפים שעדיין לא בדקנו אותם אם הם אכן ישימים, עד לחברות שיכולות לצאת, כמו החברה האלו, לשוק בארץ ובעולם. ומשקיעים כסף, נותנים כסף, הלוואות, כדי לקחת את הרעיונות הראשונים ולתת להם אפשרות לפיילוט.
So in Israel, we also have, he says, a innovation department really that connects between companies who are more still in the idea phase that haven't yet fleshed out what it is exactly they're doing and bring them all the way to the point of the companies that we're hearing here today that are really ready to market their product.
ואנחנו משקיעים הרבה כדי שהחקלאים שלנו יכירו את קדמת הטכנולוגיה מהארץ וגם מהעולם. והדבר האחרון, אנחנו מאוד אוהבים לעשות ביזנס עם העולם, לתת את מה שאנחנו יודעים לאחרים. אנחנו היהודים קוראים לזה תיקון עולם.
So one very important and final thing is that we very much enjoy and desire more cooperation around the world in these fields. And as the Jewish people say, it is a concept of tikkun olam, of sort of fixing the world. And that is certainly what we're talking about here. Israeli Minister Alon Shuster, thanks so much for being with us. Well, let's just go back to hear from one more voice over in Greece, actually. Foteni Arampati, she's Greek Deputy Minister of Rural Development and Food. We heard a bit from you just earlier, so why don't you talk to us now briefly about where you want to see change happen? What specific technology do you need for it to happen?
Well, I would like to emphasize two areas where I think my country has a comparative advantage. And I refer to the opportunities in goat and sheep livestock farming and, of course, aquaculture. As regards the former, the livestock goat and sheep farming, the possibilities of using cameras to monitor the state of health of animals within livestock facilities, GPSs on goats and sheep to monitor the behavior while grazing, and software for precise feeding per animal all contribute to resource saving and the reduction of production costs. With regard to aquaculture, where our country holds the first place in the exports to the rest of the EU, both in terms of value and in terms of the value of production, there are fully automated systems for monitoring the feeding speed, classifying the fish, and measuring water pollution. And so, enhancing competitiveness, encouraging entrepreneurship, attracting investment, managing natural resources in a sustainable manner, as well as taking actions for the environment and the climate change, constitute a horizontal political goal which our government here in Greece has been trying to achieve through the promotion of innovation and the direct application of new technologies as stipulated both in the new CAP strategic plan and in the other strategies of the Greek Ministry of Agriculture and Food. It is well known that the European Commission has said digital transformation in their priorities. For the use of all the new funding instruments created by EU and national institutions is certainly a promising start. Thus, the European Agricultural Guarantee Fund, created in cooperation with the European Investment Fund, or the COVID-19 Recovery Fund, run in cooperation with the Greek Investment Bank and the National Strategic Reference Framework, or the Horizon Europe program, or the European Agriculture Fund for Rural Development, the so-called second pillar, are some of the funding sources to which we would like to see the access of farmers broadened and facilitated through simplified procedures, relief of excessive bureaucracy. Progress in communication technology and digital training open up new ways of access to services independently of the distance of rural areas from urban centers, the so-called democratization of broadband connectivity. To my mind, and I will close my intervention stating this paragraph, Greek agriculture in its current dimensions and its particularities and rich local diversity may show the way towards the drastic change required for healthy and sustainable agriculture. I mean a model centered on the human being and biodiversity. This is why we are striving to support local production, particularly of small producers opting for sustainable agricultural practices such as biological agriculture, biodynamics, local varieties, Greek livestock feed, and to ensure their access to the market. This is also an area where I would like to see change happen, as your question put it. But this is, I mean, a change of culture, not just in Greece, but in the European Union more broadly. Apart from the everyday directions provided by OPECP, which is the Greek Payment Authority of Common Agricultural Policy aid schemes, I think that a public awareness-raising campaign on a European level would certainly help to this direction. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Foteni Arampatsi, Greek Deputy Minister of Rural Development and Food. And before we sort of conclude this part of our conversation, I want to jump back to Maria Haristova, the counselor to the Bulgarian Minister of Agriculture. Maria, if you have anything to add, please go ahead now that we've actually heard from other countries and spoken a little more practically also about this kind of technology.
Thank you very much. What I would like to add is that we are on the right time because we are in the process of programming the interventions, the measures for digitalization in our strategic plan. This is the programming document that will be in force from 2023 to 2027. And instead of the rural development program. So we have more than 2 billion euro for this period, and the need for digitalization is already, as Minister Taneva said, identified in the SWOT analysis, and the document identified needs. I mentioned some of the examples for the sectors that we think we need specific solutions. I saw the presentation for biosecurity. Is a very important topic this year, and I hope that we can get the know-how from the Israeli companies. With respect to some other points that I would like to point out is that we have identified needs for production of energy from renewable sources of agriculture. I mean, hydro, wind, solar, and waste biomass from agriculture. It's very but it has a huge potential, and also the optimization and construction and reconstruction of the irrigation system in Bulgaria has a huge potential to reduce the negative consequences of natural and climate risks, including rehabilitation, modernization of the infrastructure, and the access of the farms during this very tough period this year. Another opportunity that we have identified in our analysis, and it's related to the Green Deal and the ambition of Europe for transformation of the agriculture, is related to technologies for mitigating the effects of climate change and adapting to it. For example, these are technologies for cereals and crops with reduced tillage. It's so-called conservation agriculture, and any technologies connected to, for example, no-till, strip-till technologies, sensors, and any smart devices which can track and lead to precise farming are identified also in our analysis, and will be implemented in the strategic plan for the future common agriculture policy and financed by the European Rural Development Fund. Thank you.
Maria Haristova, thanks very much for that. And thank you so much to all the ministers from across Southeastern Europe joining this conversation that have really laid out what their challenges are, what their needs are going forward in Agro-Tech. And stay with us, of course, because you're going to hear from many more Israeli companies in Agro-Tech presenting exactly what it is they do and how they can help. And still with us is, of course, in studio, Irina Nevlin, founder and chair of IMPROVATE. Irina, we've now heard so many of the needs across this region. Do you think these Israeli companies are going to be able to address them?
You know, I have to tell you that I've learned so much over the last hour, and I think I'll rephrase your question and say there's so much Israel can learn from European countries. There's so much experience. The database is amazing. And what Mr. Mladinov said in the beginning is very right. We are very emotionally close, right, and we have very good ability to cooperate. Now, the reason I mentioned that again is that, you know, if you look at the world now, we're in such a complicated world. I really don't believe that there is one CEO, one minister, one government, one country that can solve its own problems. Because it's the revolution of technology, it's the transformation, it's the COVID. I mean, you name it, but there is no one single person who can actually make changes, real changes. I'm talking about real changes, not talking about changes, but actually implementing them. And the cooperation becomes hugely important. As to your question, we were talking about impossible conditions in the earlier presentation of the, you know, minus cold temperatures and what Israeli companies can do. You see, this country was created in impossible conditions. Yeah. We are created in desert, and yet we had to find a way of feeding people, providing the water. And so what we're good at as a country, as impossible conditions, finding the solutions, adapting, learning, because what you need is you need to be very flexible and open-minded, and not to say this is what I want to do, but to actually say We learn on the way, we adapt to the situation. I think we're good at that. And so I think the cooperation can benefit both sides. I don't see it actually as a both sides, but there's a group of people who really want to make the world a better place. And I think Israeli side comes from providing very cost-effective and practical solutions that we know how to implement at a very quick rate.
Well, as you point to, in times of crisis, when everything seems impossible, some of the best things can come out of that. So hopefully this will be the case. Irina Nevzlin, thanks so much for joining us, of course, and for founding and being behind this initiative that you're telling us about, just how important it is. We can see that.
Pleasure is mine.
And remember, don't forget, IMPROVATE will connect these companies to the ministers' bureaus to enable a direct dialogue and, of course, future cooperation. Now, let's get straight into another Israeli company to hear about what they do and how they can help. Agro-Tech is an international multicultural corporation providing tailor-made creative tech solutions and innovative products, all for the global agri-tech market. Their specialty, identifying current global needs and inventing creative tech solutions, like we just heard, that translate into innovative products. Take a look. Director and co-founder Dor Moran is here with us. So talk to us a little bit about Agro-Tech's mission.
Look, AGL is creating innovative, sustainable products that provide a global tech markets with cutting-edge technology for solution. We're basically looking for the technology for the people to grow the right product, depend on the climate, if it's indoor, outdoor, but to find the right technology to improve it and to give it to the certain person any place in the world.
So what kind of technologies do you provide? Let's get specific.
Look, I'll define it into 3 sections. So one section is agriculture facilities. So it's technologies like greenhouses, tunnels, net houses, dairy farm that we are actually producing. And more technologies that I will say more for the low-tech industry. For the high-tech industry, we are more into the vertical farming, robotic, automation. That basically is the future to connect this kind of technology to the next level. And also, of course, renewable energy to make all of these things happen.
Well, I'm sure renewable energy is part of your answer to this next question, but how do you actually see the future of agriculture in the coming decades?
Look, in the next decades, I will say that Europe will produce their own food. They will don't buy and don't freight anymore food or maybe flowers out of the country. They need to look over growing their own. It will basically will create less planes flying over the skies, less carbon footprint.
Much better for the environment.
Absolutely. And also it's renewable and local farming, creating job opportunities, using the resources. And this is what we are committed.
That's a great vision, and I think something for everyone to remember, a future where everyone is able to do things locally because they have the technology like yours to actually make that happen. Dor Moran at Agro-Tech, thanks so much.
Thank you
for being with us. Well, we've heard from a couple of Israeli innovators in agri-tech now, so let's briefly zoom out to look at Israel as a whole, how a tiny country in the Middle East has become a global leader in agriculture technology.
Welcome to the future of agriculture. Long before the challenge of growing more with less became so prominent globally, the local shortage of natural resources in Israel fostered inventive, groundbreaking agricultural technologies. Israel's international leadership in data-enabled technologies, coupled with governmental support, were utilized to amplify and broaden its agri-tech innovation capabilities. On the ground, an integration of sensors deployed throughout the fields and cloud-based software solutions enable data collection and analysis. It allows growers to optimize irrigation regimes, save water, and minimize fertilization, while ensuring healthy and robust harvests. And up in the sky, sophisticated drones and remote sensing satellites provide agricultural information on cultivated land, enabling quick identification of crop diseases. It is an essential tool for real-time informed decision-making. To face plant pollination challenges, automated pollination systems reduce the dependency on spontaneous insect-based pollination. Additionally, machine learning algorithms recruit nature to generate stronger and healthier hives. Computational breeding improves accuracy and brings products to market quickly and cost-effectively. By using a simple phone camera to scan fruits, an app will analyze their ripeness, freshness, durability, and taste. The transition from traditional manual harvesting processes to state-of-the-art technology is well on its way. Autonomous harvest technologies operated by robotic workers and drones are applied in the fields. Israel's innovative technologies are utilized for excellence in additional agricultural fields. Israel features the future of agriculture, not merely as a slogan, it is a fact. The most advanced, pioneering, leading solutions and technologies in the field of agriculture can all be found in one place, right here in Israel.
And I want to bring in now a country we actually haven't heard from just yet. Dr. Jaroslav Szwiec-Karpowicz is the Scientific and Economic Counselor at the Polish Embassy here in Tel Aviv. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Helen.
So in your role, you deal with trade between the countries, with innovation, with investment. So if we're talking about the field of agriculture, what kind of needs does Poland have at this moment? What's most pressing?
Well, Poland is one of the biggest producer and exporter of food, mainly on the European markets. So, and also not many people, not many customers are aware that they actually buy Polish products. So one of the biggest challenge for a Polish agriculture industry is to better promote and it's so-called branding. So not just to, let's say, to provide food on the market, but also to make customers familiar with Polish companies. This is one of the biggest challenge of the sector. Of course, and this is some room of opportunity for Israeli companies, is to expand on the further markets, not only just concentrate on the European Union. And actually, Israel now is in the process of establishing diplomatic relations with Gulf states. Sure. And I think this is some window of opportunity for Poland and Israel, because Poland have very good relations with almost all Arab states, and now we can just join forces, use Israeli technologies, our networks, our current, let's say, infrastructure, diplomatic missions, trade offices, and together explore third markets.
It's interesting. That's something actually that at the very beginning of this broadcast we heard from UN Special Coordinator Nikolai Mladinov. He said that this change with the Gulf can actually open up great opportunity for Southeastern Europe. So it's good to know that Poland is ready for that.
Of course.
How has this pandemic, though, affected your needs, your situation? Because we've heard already from people from several countries, and each is dealing with their own challenges in that space.
Of course, all sectors are affected by COVID, but I have impression that food sector relatively is not in a bad situation. I mean, people need food, and also if we look at the process of production, preserving, storages, I mean, we say that these elements can smoothly work during the pandemic. So I think that it's rather some challenge or maybe even opportunity for Polish food producers. During pandemia, our trade between Poland and Israel is on the same, or sometimes it's going a little bit up. Yeah, so Poland is still a very important food exporter on Israeli market, but this is what I said in the beginning. sometimes even Israeli customers, they are not aware that they buy Polish products. Exactly, this meat or fruit or vegetables are coming from Poland.
Well, that's really interesting, and stay with us because we're going to hear about another Israeli innovator in Agro-Tech and come back to you. Agrofit is focused on farming. They turn standard farms into smart farms and help farmers optimize their crops' performance. Dr. Itai Miara is Agrofit's CEO, joining us right now. Itai, thanks very much for being with us.
Oh, nice to meet you.
So talk to us, first of all, more about the challenges facing farmers and what your technology does.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, Agrofit is an IoT company that develop a cutting-edge technology for smart irrigation. Okay, this is in general. And what we are doing is transforming any farm in very easy way to smart farm. This is all the idea how to go to any farm, doesn't matter the size of the farm.
So you don't have to start as a smart farm. Yes. You can be a traditional farm and make the switch.
We'll switch to smart farms. So we say what if your fields could talk? So exactly just putting this technology, this device on your farms, and already it will collect different kinds of environmental parameter and soil parameter and collect them, analyze them, and send to the farmers different kind of recommendation about how to manage the farm simply. So this is all the idea. The idea is coming and to be very, very simple and succeeded to spread with large number of farmers. Regarding the challenges to transform from regular farm to smart farm, we always say that any smart device is not so smart if the farmer does not use it, yes? If they just put it in the corner, is always the problem. So after working with hundreds of farmers, we start to understand what will be the right package for the farmers to move from one side to other side, and we develop Agrofit. And this is all about this, about simplicity, about ability to be clear with the farmer. So the solution can tell to the farmer, you need more irrigation, you need more fertilization. This around the things, and this is what we are doing.
I imagine that's really critical from what you say, to have simple implementation so that people can do it without too much process, and will make it more likely for people to actually be able to integrate that into their older farm, so to speak. So you talked a little bit about it, but what else sets your solution apart from other smart farming solutions out there?
Yes, thanks for the question. So 3 things, I believe. One is simplicity, okay? Second thing is that we don't want to replace the farmers, and I will explain, okay? We want to support him. And third thing is because you can spread a lot of them in a lot of farms, and then you can build some net of knowledge between farmers. And this is all what we are different from the others. So when we say simplicity, I explain. Just put it in the farms, and it's already take the app, and it's already transmit data for you, analyze for you all what you think, your language, what you need, and it's very simple for them. The second thing, as I said, we don't want to replace the farmer. We understand that in the current situation, okay, farmers are working in their fields, and they need to take the right decision. So this support their decision and not replace them is very important in order to bring smart farming to the farm when you are not very, very mature with this solution. And the third thing is what we call virtual control room. So we really built virtual control rooms that sending different kind of alert to different people on the let's say agricultural organization, which means this unit can sometimes send the alerts or send the recommendation to the farmer, while later on he can send it to the extension service for the farmers. So by this is, as I said, it's very simple to build a net.
To scale.
Yeah, to scale it.
Well, I mean, given all this experience, as you mentioned, working with hundreds of farmers, what might your vision be for Agro-Tech, for agriculture in the future in Southeastern Europe, in this region we're talking about here today?
Yes, so as today, these days, can be more and more simple, yes, to put this kind of things on the field. So the main vision is to really transform big group of farmers, okay, from a ordinary farming to smart farming. We work with hundreds of farmers around the world and succeeded to increase production by simple things. So save money, save water, increase production just by getting the right data, analyze in the right time and take the right decision. This is the revolution that we bring to many places in the world. Okay, so if you speak about the vision, this is the vision.
Well, Dr. Itai Miara, thanks so much for talking to us about GrowFit. What you say also maybe echoes what we heard before from another Israeli company, this potential future ability for farms and countries like those in southeastern Europe to be sort of self-sufficient, to have less imports and rather provide their own solutions using that kind of technology. And of course, as we've mentioned, IMPROVATE will make the connection between all of these companies and the Minister's Bureau to enable a direct dialogue. And I want to come back here also in studio to Dr. Jaroslav Karpovich from the Polish Embassy. So what kind of practical steps do you think that Israeli companies might be able to take if they are here and say, I want to get involved in Poland's field, in Poland's agriculture?
For example, this product can be offered on the Polish market. And I really encourage you to go to Poland with this, taking into account that Poland is the fourth biggest agriculture area in the European Union, and this country, the sector, is dominated by a very small farms, less than on average 10 hectares. So if this device is very simple and can be smoothly used by farmers, I really see a great success. But I think what is more important is that Israeli researchers, innovators, they have brilliant ideas and they should be testified. And Poland offers large possibilities to test your ideas and then go to the market with something which is already proved, especially taking into account the weather condition, which are in Poland very similar to the weather conditions in the rest of Europe, contrary to Israel. Another opportunity for innovators from Israel is to jointly apply for EU funds. This year, European Union allocated $100 million for Green Deal calls dedicated to smart farming. And it's just only this year, so we may expect that next year there will be more and more money for research and for innovations. And as you know, all EU funds, they required cooperation between many countries, right, and partners. So I see rather a win-win situation than a strong competition.
Well, Dr. Karpovich, thanks very much for that very practical advice, and to know that Poland is really sort of literally and figuratively fertile ground for Israeli companies to actually test out their technology and then take it to the next step. Well, we have been hearing about Southeastern Europe's agriculture needs, of course, and it's clear that there are a lot of opportunities for Israeli companies in that space, like we just heard about. And as we've talked about, IMPROVATE isn't about speaking vaguely, it's about creating real and long-lasting partnerships. So on exactly that, let's bring in Vasil Grudev. He is Executive Director of Bulgaria's State Fund of Agriculture. Thanks very much for being with us.
Hello.
So we have heard... Yes, go ahead.
I would like to start that, of course, it's an honor and pleasure for me to participate with you in this international conference on innovation and agriculture. And I'm much more excited because now I'm sure that we share the same ideas. And after pointing the problems, now we have to start to preparing the lemonade. We have the lemons. Right. Let's talk about the lemonade. Then here is our role as a state fund, and I will be very happy to share with you our experience in financing all the agricultural activities and investments in Bulgaria, of course, using the EU funds and the national subsidies, because we are the relations between problems, farmers, investors, and smart solutions. Because even in this time of pandemic crisis, agriculture is the part of the solution. It's not the problem, it's the solution.
Well, so we've heard from both President Rosen Plevneliev and from Minister Taneva in Bulgaria about the opportunities in agriculture there. So tell us a little bit more specifically about exactly what you do and how you can be part of this sort of potential cooperation we've been talking about.
Okay, a short historical approach. Our state fund started 20 years ago as a national agricultural bank to finance our agricultural producers. And in 2006, we became the single paying agency, which is dealing with all the EU funds financed by the Common Agricultural Policy, which means in Bulgaria in general, this is the direct payments, the market mechanism, and the rural development program and the fishery program. The two programs, they are investment oriented. So in general, we are launching calls, we receive projects from our farmers, and then we finance them. And to be much more practical for the Israeli business, I will give you two examples for the current year. Just a couple of weeks ago, we finished one big call which was oriented in our animal farms, but to finance those types of investments which will bring the more biosecurity in these farms. We will finance 700 projects for a total amount of about 40 million euro. And one other big call which was present this year was related to the irrigation system in the Bulgarian agricultural field. Then we will finance projects for, let's say, 45 million euro also. But this is a small part of our budget because in terms of subsidy, we are dealing with a little bit more than 1.5 billion euro every year. This is our annual budget. So we are this part of the chain which relates the agricultural producers with the national policy and the investors.
Well, Mr. Grudev, I want to ask you then on the most practical level, really, what does it take for an international company to actually be part of all that and to get funding in Bulgaria?
Okay, let's say I can see easily two ways of developing this partnership. The first one, of course, is if Israeli companies want to invest in the Bulgarian agriculture. This could happen by creating the societies or firms in Bulgaria and starting the direct investment in our agriculture. The second type of possibility is to present the Israeli infrastructure of all types of investments, to present them in front of our farmers. And if our farmers find the solution in those type of investment, then we will support them to buy this investment. So for me, this is the two practical steps of entering into the agricultural sector in Bulgaria.
So just to take that one step further, what are some of the actual criteria that projects or companies will have to meet in order to accept funding or support? I mean, how can they apply?
Okay, let's be practical. We have a lot of investment activities in Bulgaria, but we push forward those investments which are, for example, innovative, which are oriented on the innovative part of the agricultural sector in Bulgaria. And here, I'm sure that the Israeli business as I saw at the presentation, they can offer really good products. So if we face an innovative product which is chosen by our farmers, then we will finance them.
Been listening along. What do you think? What has stood out to you most? Is there some kind of technology that has stood out to you most that might be relevant for this kind of project?
Yeah, I gave you an example. This year we push forward to the investment related to the biosecurity of our animal farms, because we faces a lot of diseases in the animal sector during the last 3 years. That's why we take the political decision to support our farmers in investment related to biosecurity. That was one concrete example.
Right.
We finance 700 projects related to biosecurity in the animal farms. This is very practical information, and I saw from the presentation that the Israeli business is ready to propose those kind of solutions.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much to Vasil Grudev. And as we have mentioned, that word we keep bringing up, practical, this conference is all about making some of those practical connections between companies. So thanks very much for being with us. And I want to now go back to the studio right here with us. We have a distinguished guests that can tell us much more about the situation in Greece, what they are looking for going forward. Here with us is Greece's ambassador to Israel, Panayotis Saris, Nicolas Christodoulides, head of the Economic Diplomacy Department at the Greek Embassy, and Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, their first secretary for Economic and Commercial Affairs. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. And Ambassador, let me just begin with you. You began your work in Israel this year, I believe. So give us your impression so far, what you've seen and heard of Israeli innovation.
Yeah, I came here the 20th of February, and that was a problem because after 10 days,
Not the
lockdown started. So
you haven't seen much in real life, I imagine.
No, unfortunately not. But on your question, answering your question, the thing is your vast ecosystem of stakeholders. I mean, we were amazed in my country about the number of Agro-Tech companies itself. I mean, we're talking about over 850 companies, but it's interesting to understand the way this ecosystem is structured. I mean, the interaction between government agencies, academic institutions, investors, large agribusiness, innovative farmers. I mean, this structure is amazing and apparently is productive 1,000%. I believe the greatest challenge to be faced is bringing investors to show, as it were, the agri-tech field with opportunities. And that was the main thing that I was astonished when I came here. I mean, all the structure because to have 5, 10, 20, 50 agri-tech companies, fine. But the structure that you managed here in Israel is something amazing and very fruitful.
That's exactly what we heard about actually from Israeli Minister of Agriculture, Alon Shuster, just a short while ago in the studio, who spoke about that integration and wanting to export it abroad as well. So, I mean, obviously Greece already has close ties with Israel. Can you imagine agri-tech becoming a bigger part of that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's practically impossible to downplay the level of cooperation between our two countries, between our two governments, at this given point of time. Relations between Israel and Greece are particularly strong in a large number of fields, and I would not hesitate to say all fields nowadays. Our government's commitment to continue strengthening the cooperation between our countries is more than evident. Israel and Greece, we share common values of democracy and rule of law, as well as deep historical and cultural bonds. I mean, this is more than evident. And during the meeting of our prime ministers, it was the 14th of June, the 16th of June, if I recall, Netanyahu and Mitsotakis, there was an agreement on continuing the concerted efforts to intensify cooperation in all possible fields. And I'm talking about foreign affairs, defense, innovation, cyber, Agri-Tech, what we're talking about now, science and academic, energy, health, environment, tourism, infrastructure, even culture, sports, and
a very wide
commercial investment. I mean, practically, it was everything. Specifically, we agreed to develop and promote our cooperation in the agricultural sector, take into consideration our knowledge and expertise in various agricultural areas, such as sustainable management of water and soil, you're very strong there, desalinated, saline and treated wastewater, precision agriculture, and climate change management. On the other hand, marine aquaculture and offshore fish farming, inland and coastal fishery are also industries of great interest to both countries. So we recognize that this collaboration is mutually beneficial because we have to have a win-win situation and could promote and strengthen sustainable development.
Well, so I'm sure you're going to find some of the companies we're still going to hear from interesting. We're going to come back to you in just a moment, but let's hear from another Israeli company revolutionizing this field. Roots Sustainable Agriculture Technologies is a graduate of the Israeli Chief Scientist Incubation Program. They've been publicly traded since 2017 in Australia, developing an innovative root zone heating and cooling technology sold in several countries.
Introducing Roots Sustainable Agricultural Technologies. Roots, a 2-in-1 heating and cooling solution for your crop. Optimal temperature ranges are required on the root zone level to return maximum quality and yield in crop. When the temperature is outside of those ranges, the crops struggle to grow. Roots technology addresses this dilemma through their patented 2-in-1 heating and cooling solution. How does it work? Using their innovative ground source heat exchange 2-in-1 technology, roots are able to cool the root zone layer during warmer climates and heat the root zone layer during cooler climates. This is achieved using their proprietary ground source heat exchange technology that pumps water through underground pipes to optimize the root zone temperature to a consistent optimal temperature range. This simple solution is quick and easy to install, meaning you'll have higher yields and better quality started with the first crop harvest. All data collected is sent to the cloud and you can monitor and review in real time from your PC or smart device. It's as simple as that.
Well, Boaz Wachtel is the co-founder of 3 publicly traded Australian companies. He himself is also a graduate of that Israeli Chief Scientist Incubation Program. He's also CEO, Chairman, and Chief Innovator at Roots, that precise agro-tech company. Boaz, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with the basics. And for those who are not experts in root zone technology, tell us a little bit about that root zone temperature and what role does it play in making a plant productive?
The temperature of roots is the most critical variable in the health and well-being of the plant. Many companies manage the air in greenhouses with vast amount of energy and pollution. We use very small amount of energy and we insert a device like this, let's say inside pots, and we run water, cold water or hot water. It goes into down here and goes to the next plant. And by that, we maintain an optimal root zone temperature throughout the year, and that has tremendous benefits. First, it saves, compared to air management, something like 80% of the energy.
Wow.
It increases yield, and it saves, it improves the growing cycle, it shortens them, and so on.
So you mentioned it saves an enormous amount of energy. I think it goes without saying how important that is right now and into the future. Why else is this considered such a sort of revolutionary technology in the field?
Because no one was able to develop thus far a root zone heating and cooling in one system. Today, for example, when you heat or cool the air, these are two separate systems, yes? And we, in one system, in the roots, we are able to supply optimal range of temperatures for the roots year-round. So that is a radical progression compared to what was used thus far, which is air management in greenhouses. If you combine our system with air heating and cooling, you can actually reduce the air heating and cooling just by using our system and save, let's say, 5 or 6, 7 degrees by the air heating and cooling. Or at times when you have moderate weather, like in Greece or in Israel and so on, you can use this system alone and provide food security and make the farmer happy because of the stability in production it provides.
So you're talking about both heating and cooling. Does this mean it can be relevant anywhere? I mean, tell us a little bit where this technology is active and maybe some examples of how it's already working.
Well, heating of roots is done in Europe, with either electricity, which is very energy-consuming affair. We are the only company in the world that actually cools roots as climate change impacts farming. There's a need to cool the roots and the plants during the summer. And that's what we do with our system. We also integrated to this an irrigation system. It means that now you don't need a separate drip irrigation system and heating and cooling system. With one system, you can irrigate and use the heating and cooling for the pots. We've done it in Israel on a vast number of crops. We saw a yield increase on the ranges of 10 to 40% on average. We saw shortening of growing cycles. We saw less need to use herbicides and pesticides due to the boosting of the immune system of the plant. And that is tremendous because we are educating basically the market of the importance of root zone temperature has in agriculture. And no one was able to do it thus far in a very economically efficient manner like we have.
Yeah. We all think about the air above the plants, but you're actually saying that the real important thing is what happens
Our
below.
motto is happy roots, happy shoots. Shoot is is what's above, and so that's how we revolutionize agriculture, with this energy saving and so on. Just one word: we have another technology in the development, which is very relevant also for my beloved Greece, which I go every year. For example, access to water in the islands is a very big issue in the islands. We have developed an irrigation by condensation, meaning we can irrigate just from humidity in the air now. Like when you have cold water running in pipes, you have a puddle.
Right.
We run cold water and the humidity condenses, and you can irrigate the plants just from humidity in the air.
Much less waste.
And we will very much like to cooperate with all of Eastern Europe where there's a water problem. We were also in Hungary, and they said there's a desert developing in southern Hungary, so the conditions and the droughts are increasing. And then there is a need for innovative irrigation systems, and we tap it from the humidity in the air.
Well, you're of course surrounded by the people who can help make that happen. So IMPROVATE will make those connections going forward. Boaz Wachtel, thanks very much for that. And before I get some of your reaction, I just want to come back to former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev, who is of course our co-chair of this international conference. So, I mean, everything we've heard so far, we've heard quite a lot from ministers from all across this region and from Israeli companies. You have visited Israel as acting president and witnessed Israel's innovation and tech industry. So after hearing about all of that, the need for innovative solutions in this region, what kind of economic opportunities can you envision now between Israel and Southeast Europe?
It's truly exciting to see how the ecosystem in Israel is bringing a world-class product And we love it. We're extremely positive about implementing those products and those technologies and solutions also in our markets. And here is the news. Southeast Europe is ready for that. Southeast Europe is pushing its agriculture production. The market is big, it's fast growing. And now, because of this 1.5 hours IMPROVATE conference, we all learn so much. But here is the 3 steps we can formulate very clearly, listening to politicians, ministers, deputy ministers, listening to ambassadors, listening to businessmen, and everybody who is today with us, and understanding how this market could work. Because great engineering, genius engineering is not enough. We need to make it as a business. It has to be a profitable business for those great Israeli companies, and it has to be profitable also for Southeast European farmers. And this is how it works. We see that. We have a world-class product. The region is ready for that. The tools are there, because just look at the money available. The European Union itself is bringing 370 billion, almost 400 billion euros into agriculture. For the region, we have 80 billion. 80% of those 80 billion go for the 4 countries, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia. Those countries have amazingly strategic partnerships, friendships, and ties in all the aspects with Israel, and Israeli companies are flourishing and working. We see that those companies now are well represented. Here, we see that those companies are planning their strategic plans for 2021, 2027. We see that, for example, the Bulgarian payment agency, as we saw the minister, but also we saw the guy who is running the state fund on agriculture. They deal with almost $2 billion a year. The money goes to the farmers who decide who to cooperate with in order to get the money into work. And here is a very simple plan. Israeli companies should come to the countries. They will meet the politicians, the ministers, the deputy ministers, the bosses of the payment agencies, the farmers, big and small. Then they will have the connections and the ties with all those guys.
Well,
and those local farmers will be capable of planning, joint venturing with those products in order to get the funding from the states. And this is going to work. I'm sure about it.
Well, you've mentioned it a little bit, but we've been talking so much here about what Israeli companies and innovators can offer these countries. So let's talk about the flip side for a moment. I mean, what kind of benefits can governments in that region offer to Israeli companies, of course, specifically in smart agri-tech?
Israeli companies are welcomed. They can participate in all government programs, in all of them. We calculate that only the 4 countries, Greece, Romania, Bulgaria, and Croatia, do have approximately $20 billion per year for the next 7 years to come on investments in agriculture. Half of the money comes from European Union government money, approximately $10 billion a year for the next 7 years to come. And half of the money comes from the farmers, big and small itself, because they also invest in agriculture. So this is a big money. Secondly, the Israeli companies need to come to see, to joint venture, or to make their products known on the market so that the farmers who get the money from the government and the European Union sources could participate with those products and technologies on government calls. And there is no problem for this to work. And it already works well. For example, just one example, a huge, 3rd biggest in the world food and agro company, which is called John Deere and Company from the United States, turning approximately $20 billion per year dollars. It is very well represented in my country, in Greece, in Romania, and makes a huge business using European funds, using government funds. We want to see more of that.
All right. Well, on that note, that great example, stay with us. I know you're going to be watching more of what we hear, and we'll come back to, of course, to help kind of put a point on everything that we've heard and laying this foundation of President Plevneliev. And I want to come back to here in the studio where we have several representatives from Greece, including, of course, the ambassador. And let's go now to Nicolas Christodoulides. He's head of the Economic Diplomacy Department at the Greek Embassy. And so, you know, we have heard already from your ambassador, from your minister, rather, a little bit about the kind of changes that they want to see in Greece's agriculture. So How do you think the economic ties, Israel's ties with Greece, can make that happen? We heard your ambassador speak a little bit about it before.
Sure. May I say how impressed I am for you pronouncing my surname properly? Yes,
I'm glad.
Thank you for having us. And yes, indeed, we heard the ambassador say how strong the ties between Greece and Israel are at the moment. And governments do the groundwork, and our first agreement dates back to '91. But it's not just bilateral governmental agreements. There is also interplay between agencies. There are memoranda of understanding that have been signed. So the groundwork is there, and of course the conditions are there, and the circumstances are very favorable. Now the thing is, how do you bring people together, and this is it's not a challenge, but it's an exercise, and because there are there are the Agri-Tech companies, the accelerators, the incubators, there is research, and you need, and of course big agribusiness and the investors and venture capital, and you
a lot of moving parts.
And you have to find a way of creating synergies. And I mean, this is part of what we're here for. It's always easy to bring people together, and it's good, but you have to be focused. And I think, one of the things to do is to bring agri-business together. It's always good to know who you work with. The biggest challenge, and research institutes do a lot in order to help startups in agri-tech. The biggest challenge is to understand what needs the big agribusiness have in order to match the venture capital with a startup company.
So in order to match that, I mean, looking at Greece's environment, which again, Ambassador Saris spoke about a little bit, there's really a lot there. In what ways do you think that environment is sort of ripe for Israeli technology? For cooperation?
The environment, the investing in Greece is an excellent thing to do at the moment. I mean, the economy is doing great. I mean, the GDP the GDP growth is recovering. The exports and manufacturing are growing. Interest rates and taxes are down. I don't want to talk a lot about how the Greek economy is improving. I mean, there is actually a new economy in the making, but the new government has put a new an investment framework in place. We work with private-public partnerships. There is a very good environment for legal and tax environment for venture capital and private equity financing, which is doing very well. And I must say that the Greek government has actually earmarked agriculture as one of the sectors that we want to attract investment in. So that says a lot. I mean, it's a very big sector in Greece.
It's already on your radar.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very big sector in Greece. And we are also interested in collaborating with Israel, who Israeli companies are, I needn't say this again, but I will. I mean, they excel in technology in fields that we are very interested in, which is smart farming and crop protection and post-harvest and pharmaceutical crops. And there's a lot of irrigation, wastewater management. There's a lot of subsectors that we are very interested in.
Well, so before we come back to all of you here in the studio, there is another company we want to bring in that might address some of those needs. This one is leading in agri-tech as well, called Adama. They are one of the world's leading crop protection companies. They have innovative solutions for farmers around the world to combat weeds, insects, and disease. Georgiana Francescotti is their global head of ag tech and digital services. She's joining us from Switzerland. Georgiana, thanks so much for being with us. And tell us how today's trends, in your eyes, are kind of transforming the future of agriculture.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us and Adama to participate in this conference. It's been really enlightening and very motivating to hear all the different speakers and what the needs are. And, there are several factors of which we heard already this morning, from climate change to the current pandemic that's transforming the way we live our lives today. And in agriculture, I think one of the biggest drivers we see affecting the future of farming is really all about the regulatory rules. We talked about the EU. I heard people talking about the EU Green Deal. And there they want to reduce the use of pesticides by 50% by 2030, or the farm to fork, where it's talking about traceability, sustainability. India is planning to also ban things like active ingredients. China, who wants to see zero growth of pesticides. Governments are very aware of this, but to go beyond that, you have supermarkets, NGOs, consumers like all of us here, who set even stricter rules. And all of this have an impact on farming and on the farmer, right? So if you're talking about today's trends, I think one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, who is the farmer of tomorrow? He is like a CEO managing a business because of all these different challenges I've talked about, from climate to investments to how do I even reduce, my costs, my need for water, but still produce the kind of quality food that we are asking for, right? So I think the farmer of tomorrow is a consumer of today. And today we're using a lot of technology already in our daily lives. So why not in farming tomorrow? You want to be more accurate in your technologies. And COVID, I think, the whole pandemic that we've been living in the last 7 months, has really proven that there are in our various forms of lockdown, we can continue to work, we can continue to communicate, and this is going to be maybe the new normal of how we work going forward. And I think using technology has maybe motivated other farmers to think, do I need technology? Do I not need? I think this has also helped in the transformation of how they think that, can technology help me? I think it's not anymore a question of, do I need technology, but which technology?
What kind of technology? Well, it's interesting that you say that they have adopted to COVID already, that it has become the new normal. I think any hopes people had that this is just going to be a very short temporary situation have long faded. But if technology is so important overall, why is there little adoption relatively, or especially in smaller, medium-sized farms?
It's a great question, because I think some of these technologies today, they are still too expensive for the small and medium-sized farmers, mainly because it's still something very new in the agricultural industry, and so they're not commercially viable. And I think one of the biggest questions, we work with a lot of farmers, and the biggest questions we get back is like, how do I know that the solution is going to work? How do I know it's really going to bring me more yield or lower the cost? Because it is a risk. If I start to use your technology, what happens if it doesn't work? I mean, this is not just one season. We're talking about the seasons of the future as well. This is his livelihood. And I think conferences like this is so important because it brings all the right people to help that farmer. Maybe we can share the risk, share the cost, give him the insurance that if it doesn't work, and I think somebody mentioned earlier, have areas where we can try and really test them on the field, these solutions, before we actually bring them to the actual field and to the markets.
Right, exactly. Our Polish guest was saying that Poland is a ripe territory for testing out technologies before pushing them forward. So given those challenges, before we let you go, what is ADAMA's actual strategy when it comes to addressing them going forward?
Well, at least at ADAMA, what we believe is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. And I think we've heard it already this morning. People have different needs, every crop, every pest, every country, your whole situation is different. So you can't just build one platform or one solution or one technology and hope that it's going to serve everybody. So in our strategy is really listening. We need to listen to the pain points of the farmer. What stops him from sleeping? Where can we help? Can technology help? And I always tell them, and I work a lot with startup companies. And if there's one advice I can give is collaborate. Focus on what you're good at. What we try to do is we bring the agronomic expertise, you bring the technology, let's listen to what the farmers need, and together we can find a solution that's going to be a win-win solution for everybody. Yeah.
And of course, those challenges and those needs are changing as we speak, as we've been talking about in this reality that everybody is still adapting to. Georgiana Francescotti at Adama, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. And I look forward to collaborating with all of you.
Well, Greece's ambassador to Israel is still with us, of course, Panayotis Saris. And I'm curious, on the note of COVID, how that has or has not changed the agriculture needs in your country.
Yeah, it has and it hasn't. I mean, we have to if we see a study of the OECD, we can find some elements which say that while the supply of food has held up to date, in many countries, the measures put in place to contain the spread of the virus are starting to disrupt the supply of agro-food products to markets and consumers. I mean, the sector is also experiencing a substantial shift in composition and, for some commodities, on the level of demand. I mean, things are changing due to COVID-19. Yeah. I mean, how damaging these impacts turn out to be for food security, nutrition, and the livelihoods of farmers, fishers, and others working along the food supply will depend in large on the policy responses over the short, medium, and long term. In the short term, governments must manage multiple demands, which is not easy, responding to the health crisis, managing the consequences of the shock to the economy, and ensuring the smooth functioning of the food system. While the pandemic poses some serious challenges for the food system in the short run, it also is an opportunity to accelerate transformation that we all need in the food and agriculture sector to build its resilience in face of the range of challenges, including climate change. Me being an optimistic person during all my life, I'm quite optimistic that at the end of the day, we will overcome with the aid of our, in this case, our Israeli friends. We are excelling really in high tech, which is a must nowadays. I mean, the years of the traditional agriculture are long over. And we have to find new ways. I mean, it's not only the COVID, it is the climate change. Sure. I mean, we have to do things.
The much bigger, grander issue.
Absolutely. At play. And this is maybe an opportunity or a challenge, if you want, in order to turn the page. Yeah. And being optimistic, as I've said, I believe that we will do it.
I think it's everybody needs to hear optimism right now, so we'll absolutely go with that. And I want to bring also into the conversation Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, First Secretary for Economic and Commercial Affairs at the Embassy. I just wonder your take on this kind of the changing needs with the pandemic. And as the ambassador mentioned, it's not just about that, it's about the bigger climate change problem.
Yes. Well, during the pandemic, we all found ourselves unable to understand and to assess the situation. Since this panel is about the agribusiness, of course, the hardcore that we face is the demand and trying to help out the production. Focusing on Israel-Greece relations in this sector, I have to say that during the pandemic, we have seen 13% more imports to Israel from Greece. It was because the only way to import products from another country, it was only from boats. Right. And of course, Piraeus and Thessaloniki did a very good job on that. And we've seen more Greek products in the grocery stores in Israel, and we're working on that. Our challenge in agri-sector in Greece is to produce products that they have a more quality, oriented in bio sector, and these new clusters that they produce, the startup technologies that they embedded, all this large production combine quality is something that we are very interested. And I have to say that so far, Greek companies, they are in collaboration with Israelis through Horizon 2020. And they implemented similar programs. Mm-hmm. And our Institute of Technology of Crete is promoting great solutions in that sector, and as well the Agriculture University of Athens is in collaboration with Volcanic Institute, and we are working towards to create a cluster combining these forces. And this is something that the next months we're going to work. Our embassy is focusing, and we are accepting any new ideas on that.
Well, so on that note, let's speak even more practically. What would you say these Israeli agri-tech companies should be doing who want to get involved, who want to attract investment?
Well, I'm not going to say something which is the magic bullet. In Greece, the last 12 months, we've reduced all kind of obstacles in implementing new businesses. We have finalized for anyone who wants to do a joint venture with a Greek company, just 4 practical steps. Before it was just a bureaucratic issue that nobody can overcome easily. Now anyone can joint venture with a Greek company and can promote with financing from European Union and also from local businesses, plans that they are oriented in innovation. This is something that we are welcoming all Israeli startuppers to help us. And one more thing, that our Ministry of Investments had recently initiated a new startup database that can incorporate all startuppers with Greek companies. So this is a new boost that we want to introduce to the Israeli market, and we're welcoming anyone to have, if you have more questions, to our embassy to provide more information on that.
Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, great to have that guidance, and I'll remind everyone that to make those connections you're talking about, IMPROVATE is going to be doing that to connect between the companies and all those ministers' bureaus or embassies as needed. So let's hear about one more company. We have 2 more we're going to hear about leading in agri-tech. Agro-Scout brings the finest Israeli agronomy to every farmer and every plant around the globe, 1 billion hectares, and through it makes a major difference in supporting food security. Here's a little glimpse at what they do.
See how quick and easy it is to use Agro-Scout's field scouting technology. Open the app and select the target area you wish to scout. Then press Start. The app loads the selected flight plan, and the drone switches to autopilot and scans the field. In just 20 minutes, the drone can cover about 50 acres. Skimming over the plants, the drone captures high-resolution images of disease and pest footprints, such as blight in this example. Once the drone lands, the image data is uploaded to the cloud for detection and analysis. Leveraging visual recognition, big data, and artificial intelligence, the Agro-Scout algorithm filters out abnormalities and matches them to its disease and pest image database. After professional evaluation, a report of infected locations with GPS-tagged images is sent to the grower's phone or handheld device. Agro-Scout. Detection done right. Go to agro-scout.com and start saving today.
And right here with us is CEO of Agro-Scout, Simcha Shol, along with Amir Hadari, who's VP of Marketing. Welcome both. So tell us a little bit more about the contribution and sort of how is it really different than the other solutions out there in agri-tech?
One is simplicity. We heard before from our partner in Adama how challenging is bringing technologies to the farmers in the field. And we're all about simplicity, bringing the finest Israeli agronomy to every farmer. And that's challenging. We use the finest, off-the-shelf, simple robotics with great cameras. And we use our smartphone. And that's the future. Every small farmer in Greece, in Israel, in Vietnam has a smartphone. Whatever happens here, that is the future of agriculture. That is the future of helping those farmers. Adama is about putting out the chemicals, helping those plants. We're about disrupting that process of just pouring out chemicals all over the field. If we can go from just statistical scouting to almost a plant level scouting, we can allow Adama treat almost at the plant level.
That speaks to what we have been hearing from many companies is the need for simplicity, because as you say, the challenges are so complex and nobody even knows what the challenges of the future are going to be at this point amid this pandemic and of course climate change. Talk to us a little bit about the farmers themselves. What kind of benefits can they expect?
The farmers today lack that plant doctor. We don't have enough agronomists to walk 1 billion hectares. In the majority of the world, farmers just don't have that. They lose 20 to 40% of the crop, which means compared to an Israeli farmer that has a Scout, they'll be growing half the tons per acre or hectare. And that's the story. We want to help those farmers grow more food in a more sustainable way. And again, the simplicity allows them to have that service. At the end of the day, they take the images, upload it to the cloud. They don't need any internet in the field. They have it at home in the office. No big machinery. And we specialize in looking at those images using computer vision and analytics and giving them back that report to their smartphone so they can then go implement chemicals that are needed specifically to a point.
So where do you see this going? I mean, both AgroScout and maybe the field itself in, say, 5 years?
I think in 5 years, you'll see AgroScout, the biggest agronomic company in the world, serving millions of growers worldwide, helping them getting better yields. If you see the new generation of growers worldwide that already using the smartphone, so this is our audience for the next few years.
All right, so we're all going to move into smart agri-tech. It's about time. Well,
it's about simplicity. This is a field in Mexico.
Got it. All right, well, that shows very clearly why people need, I mean, we've heard about all these complex challenges in lots of different climates, by the way, in lots of different temperatures and with different challenges. So great solutions to have that kind of simplified. AgroScout, thanks so much for being with us. And we'll move from there to the 7th and final company leading in agri-tech here in Israel, Groundwork BioAg. They produce beneficial fungi for commercial agriculture. Here's a quick look at what exactly that means.
What's your farm's greatest physical asset? It's your land, of course, the ground. But years of applying chemical fertilizers and pesticides are literally eroding the value of your main asset. How could you increase your soil's natural fertility and groundwork? Plants have benefited from mycorrhiza over the last 400 million years, but modern cultivation techniques deplete the natural mycorrhiza in your soil. Groundwork's Rutella is a pure mycorrhizal inoculant, 100% natural and highly effective. Based on over 25 years of applied research at Israel's Volcani Center, Rutella is 10 to 100 times higher in concentration than most competitive products, making it the first of its kind to be relevant for seed treatment. Field trials have demonstrated double-digit yield increases in both corn and soybean, among other row crops and vegetables. Mycorrhiza is a symbiotic relationship between 90% of all plant species and fungi. The microscopic fungi latch onto plant roots and effectively extend them in an underground web. They physically access nutrients that are out of the root's reach and chemically break down unavailable bound nutrients, especially phosphorus. While non-mycorrhizal corn plants absorb only 15% of applied phosphorus fertilizer, mycorrhizal corn plants absorb up to 90%. The result? No more unavailable phosphorus. Better nutrient uptake translates to a wide scope of benefits to farmers. Rutella can significantly improve yield. Many crops such as corn, onions, garlic, sorghum, olive, cannabis, and carrot require mycorrhiza in order to grow optimally. Farmers can save on fertilizer, notably phosphorus. Under certain circumstances, water can also be saved. Mycorrhiza improve plant resilience in the face of several types of stress, such as drought, acidity, or salinity. All of these benefits come in a completely eco-friendly product. Rutella products are available in several cost-effective formulations to suit your farm. Higher yield, less fertilizer, healthier crops, all natural. With Rutella mycorrhizal inoculants, your ground works.
Dan Grotzky is a serial entrepreneur, co-founder and VP of Sales and Marketing at Groundwork BioAg. His international experience ranges from information technology and communication to clean tech and, of course, ag tech. So for those of us who are not familiar with mycorrhizal fungi, or weren't until just a moment ago, tell us a little bit about what it is and why it's so important.
Great. Thanks for having me, by the way. It's a pleasure to be here. So mycorrhiza is a symbiosis between fungi and plants, whereby the fungi effectively extend the root system of the plant in an underground web. And this is the way plants grow in nature and have been growing for 400 million years. In fact, 90% of all plant species, that's how they grow. But in agriculture, first we kill everything and then we try to grow plants. And so we've essentially broken the rhizospheric ecosystem that is so essential to plant life. At Groundwork, what we do is we produce mycorrhizal inoculants so that we can bring that life back to the ground. And the farmers can let their ground work.
So what makes Rutella unique?
So Rutella is the most cost-effective, most concentrated mycorrhizal inoculants on the planet. We employ unique production methods to get what you see in this picture here, which is just a little drop of water under a microscope that's teeming with spores. Mm-hmm. And the concentrations are very, very high, which is what enables us to deliver it very, very cost effectively. This is important really to penetrate row crops with a solution that's within their price point that can be implemented on seeds. So it's a seed treatment where this is applied. Furthermore, we have unique strains that were isolated here in the Judean desert and are therefore true survivors, kind of like Israelis are, and can really, they're very vigorous and robust.
Right, like Irina Nevzlin mentioned earlier, Israel is an expert at making something in impossible situations. So I think that's a good example. You mentioned cost effective. What does this mean? What's sort of the bottom line for farmers?
So all a farmer needs, with Rutella X, which is our professional seed treatment product, it's our most concentrated product, all a farmer needs to do is apply 15 grams for an entire hectare of corn, wheat, soybean, most any row crop. And this is an example of what you would see in this photo behind me. Mm-hmm. This is treated, untreated. What the farmer gets, first of all, is improved yields. So you see significant yield increases very often. You can do that while saving on fertilizer, most specifically phosphorus. You can save up to 50% of your phosphorus fertilizer and still get the same yields and higher. Finally, and this is very important, stress. So in fields where there is poor soils or acidity or alkalinity, salinity, droughts, flooding, these plants are under stress. And just like with people, when we eat better, we're healthier and we're more productive. Well, the plants are the same way. And so if the nutrient uptake is better, the plants really perform much better. Finally, you get all of that in a completely eco-friendly product. We're talking about biologicals, completely natural, and we're replacing chemistry with biology.
So, I mean, my last question for you is exactly that, is what impact do you actually have on the environment?
Well, that's where I come from, right? On a personal note, this is the reason that I came to co-found Groundwork BioAg. First of all, you're getting higher yields with the same resources, so that you're creating more food. But more than that, when you save on fertilizer, you're saving chemicals, you're saving on runoff pollution, mm-hmm. and this is a very significant problem. The whole phosphorus cycle is a mess these days. Finally, mycorrhiza produces something called glomalin. It's the only known organism that produces glomalin. And glomalin is it's like a sticky adhesive. It's a glycoprotein that sticks the soil together. So when you have healthy soil and it has its tilth, mm-hmm. it's called tilth, that's because the glomalin is sticking it together. Apparently, glomalin is also responsible for 27% of the carbon that is sequestered into soils, which is the land's largest carbon sink. And so you're not only getting higher yields, you're not only saving on fertilizer, you're actually mitigating climate change at the same time.
Yeah. And all of that, again, exactly the words that we've been talking about. This is not just about dealing with Agro-Tech in COVID-19, it's about the much bigger problem of climate change. Dan Grodzki, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And well, we've heard from 7 of Israel's leading Agri-Tech companies now, and IMPROVATE, of course, will connect them to the ministers' bureaus, the decision makers with the change makers, to enable a direct dialogue and cooperation. And thanks very much here in the studio to Konstantinos Daskalopoulos, Nicolas Christodoulides, and Ambassador Panayotis Saris. Before we come back to President Rosen Plevneliev, I just wonder, Ambassador, if you have any sort of closing thoughts or maybe your message to Israeli companies who say, okay, we're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I will state what our friend here said, that the Israelis are big survivors, and which is true. I mean, now after all this discussion that we had, I do believe that the sky is the limit. I mean, in the past, in order to become farmers, they were doing that just because they didn't have other opportunities. And they were doing whatever they had, even if it was necessary, more than necessary, but they were doing that because due to lack of opportunities. But now it's something totally strange, totally different. And that's what I said before, that I'm optimistic. I mean, it's not COVID-19. COVID-19 exists today. Hopefully within 1 or 2 years will be over. But climate change is something much more important, and it came to stay with us. And what I heard, not just before, but even, I mean, during the whole discussion of today, it makes me a little bit more optimistic, because there are people who are trying, and it's not only trying because everybody can try, but they do have results to deal even with climate change. I mean, from when I was young, I remember that the quantities of water that they do go for agriculture are huge. I mean, more than 80% goes to agriculture, generally speaking, around the world, which is an ecological disaster. I mean, but there are people who are trying and that have results, that produce results, even on that, or to use less chemicals, less fertilizers. I mean, all this makes me a little bit more optimistic, and I'm happy that I found this view here, because before I couldn't even imagine that the startups, I mean, even in agriculture, can have such an important impact.
Often we do look at it, especially as climate change, as an insurmountable problem, but it's a great reminder that solutions are out there. It's just about implementation, actually making it happen. So, Ambassador Saris, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
As we come to an end here, let me turn it back over to our co-chair, former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev. So after hearing from ministers, diplomats, tech innovators here, give us your sort of closing thoughts on where it all goes from here.
First of all, let me thank you to IMPROVATE team. You guys, you have done a great job. We're very proud of you. Our moderator, Nurit, you were amazing, and we are all grateful to you too. Speaking about Israeli companies that we saw today, we learned a lot from them. We saw the future. We are ready to grab that future. Speaking about, on behalf of all of the politicians, presidents, deputy ministers, ambassadors, so many people that were with us today, I am extremely grateful that you gave us the opportunity at IMPROVATE to come together. We shared ideas, we shared plans, we shared strategic thinkings and understanding, and we shared the same vision. And on top of that, all those countries we're talking about today, with Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, and others, all of them are strategic partners of Israel, are friends of Israel with deep-rooted cooperation that goes centuries behind. And all of them love Israel and cooperate in all the fields. And here is the message. This conference, we enjoyed so much. Extremely and professionally organized on a world-class event that goes to world-class media, the leading media in Israel, a leading business media in the world are listening to us and are going to see how we come together. But this conference is not just ending. IMPROVATE is a platform to bring business, politicians, everybody who is anybody in the ecosystem together. And this is ahead of us. We had a great conference today, but we do have our plans. Bulgaria, Romania, Greece, Croatia are ready in the next months to host delegations from Israel. Israeli companies will see all the decision makers. They will see the big farmers, the small farmers, the very profitable international giants. They will see the potential. They will see and they will learn. And in a 3 days visit, they will be much more involved into what's going on in this market. And again, talking about Southeast Europe, it's a fast and a very dynamically growing market. It's 20 billion euros per year investments in agriculture. It's $80 billion per year market of itself, and it is growing. And there is no other way to grow but with cooperation with the best. And that's you guys from Israel. Greetings and shalom.
Thanks very much, President Plavneliev. A whole lot of potential, as you say, that is ripe and ready to be used and taken forward. Thanks so much for being with us and, of course, co-chairing all of this. And that is it for us from IMPROVATE's international conference, Smart Agri-Tech in Southeastern Europe. Over the last couple of hours, we've heard, of course, from former Bulgarian President Rosen Plevneliev, UN Special Envoy Nikolai Mladinov, agriculture ministers from Greece to Croatia, Bulgaria, and Israel, all across the region, all of them breaking down what their countries need now for a thriving and sustainable future. But most of all, we got a taste of Israel's leading agri-tech companies, all of them excited to provide tech solutions for this region in its transformation. And that is exactly what IMPROVATE is all about, creating those connections. Thanks for joining us.